There are people who were never meant to become heroes, yet fate forces them to be. And Wang Lin is one of them. Born into an ordinary family, he carried a simple wish in his heart to cultivate immortality and repay his parents' kindness. But the world is never that kind. No talent, no background, no guidance, everything seemed to whisper to him, the path of cultivation is not for you. Yet in the midst of that hopelessness, Wang Lin chose something that very few have the courage to do. He kept going. He walked forward with stubbornness. He walked forward with longing. He walked forward with everything left in his resilient heart. A strange opportunity came to him, opening a path of cultivation drenched in blood and loneliness. There, every improvement required a sacrifice. Every step forward meant losing something precious. To grow stronger, he had to endure 100 times more than ordinary people. Renegade Immortal is the tale of a man who never submits. A man willing to defy the heavens, defy fate, and defy the world just to protect what his heart refuses to let go. This is not merely an immortal cultivation story. This is the journey of a soul so powerful that even eternity must bow. And today, I invite you to step into that journey, the journey of Wang Lin, the man who walks against the will of heaven to find the answer meant for himself. Within the Zhuandao sect's mountain range, behind the mountain where Wang Lin had secluded himself for cultivation years ago, lay a dense area of vegetation and countless caves. Amidst this vast natural landscape, only a man named Park Namya sat cross-legged on a cylindrical rock within a cave, his eyes closed in meditation. His appearance was almost unchanged from 400 years ago. His face was still broad and square, exuding an air of solemnity at first glance. On the cave ceiling, several stalactites, clinging to tiny mineral deposits, dripped water onto the damp ground, creating a soothing, rhythmic sound. After a long while, a strange light flickered across Park Namja's face, constantly changing. He slowly opened his eyes. At this moment, his eyes seemed shrouded in mist, enveloping the sun and moon. Park Namya raised his right hand, slowly counting on his fingers, his expression devoid of joy or anger, and swung his hand forward. Immediately, the cliff face several meters in front of him suddenly lit up. Immediately afterward, 10 spakes of light gradually appeared on the cliff. But almost as soon as these 10 spakes of light appeared, 6 of them suddenly flashed brightly before becoming increasingly dim, and finally disappearing. Park Namsu's expression remained inscrutable, but he frowned slightly. His face vaguely darkened, and at this moment, the air around him became heavy. Even the drops of water falling from the top of the cliff stopped falling. If a nascent soul cultivator were here at this moment, their eyes would surely light up. The ability to alter the fluctuations of spiritual power in all directions and perform complex divine spells is something only nascent soul cultivators can do. Currently, Park Namsu had almost reached the nascent soul stage. Nascent soul stage, for him, it was not far away, only a paper window away, a single thrust, and he would surely break through. Fak Namti stared intently at the light spot on the wall for a long time, muttering to himself, Teng Hui Yuan, what kind of powerful figure have you provoked? To leave behind such a great disaster, alas, if it weren't for the envoy's designation to use the Teng clan as test subjects. I wouldn't want to meddle in your Tang family's affairs. Fak Namti's face was grim. In fact, even now he still didn't understand what the envoy sought in the Tang family that led him to designate them as test subjects. Without this, considering the entire Tang clan's aptitude, it would be impossible for them to have 9 nascent soul cultivators. And how could Teng Hui Yuan have risen from early nascent soul to late nascent soul in just a few hundred years, his strength almost equal to that of Fak Namti himself? After a moment of contemplation, the old man stood up, waved his sleeve, and his body instantly vanished. He reappeared at the peak of the Zhuandao sect, standing there. Park Namya knelt on one knee, looking up at the sky, his hands rapidly changing incantations. As the incantations in his hands changed, the sky, which had been clear and cloudless, suddenly became increasingly cloudy, and an incredibly powerful pressure gradually emerged. Park Namya waved his hands and shouted, Park Namya, a low-level cultivator from the Hanyue Kingdom, borrows your magical artifact for a moment. As soon as the sound was uttered, the 2 highest peaks of the Hangyu mountain range lit up with 2 colors, blue and pink. The light grew brighter and brighter, and at this moment, all the spiritual power in the Zhao Kingdom surged wildly towards this place. Immediately afterward, the two blue and pink streams of light slowly rose, stopping on either side of Park Nam-ya. The radiance gradually faded, revealing the true form within. This form was two Dharma wheels, each with four slanted blades, emitting icy cold rays of light. Even around the four sides of the Dharma wheel, a spatial rift appeared. It was clear that this Dharma wheel was not a nascent soul-level artifact. It could only be a treasure crafted by a cultivator at or above the transformation god stage. Park Nam-jae knelt on the ground, bowing several times, before carefully placing a beam of spiritual light onto the two Dharma wheels and carefully storing them in his storage bag. Then, taking a deep breath, his entire being instantly radiated waves of killing intent, and he whispered, "Tang Yuan, this is the last time I will help you." Within 100 years, if no transformation god-level cultivator appears in the Tang family, don't blame me for being ruthless. With that, his entire body flashed and vanished without a trace. In that instant, the surging spiritual power transformed, and Wang Lin immediately noticed that although his expression remained calm, his heart sank. A moment later, he snorted coldly and flew towards the only remaining spot of light, the core of the Tang family, which remained motionless. The border of Zhao Kingdom. This place was extremely mysterious. For 400 years, even ordinary people nearby, including martial artists, would turn pale with fear at the mere mention of it. Even cultivators were terrified of this place. It was a massive black swamp. From this enormous, deep swamp emanated a pungent, muddy smell. How deep it truly was, no one knew except a few exceptional individuals. However, every 100 years, it would erupt once, each time with an incredibly terrifying force. Normally, it was a forbidden zone, regardless of whether they were ordinary people, cultivators, or even birds and strange beasts. Anyone who approached within a certain distance would be swallowed alive by a colossal gravitational pull into the swamp. Over time, a layer of dust and debris would inadvertently form around the swamp, completely enveloping it. This place is the most dangerous place in Zhao Kingdom for the past 400 years. The Black Mud Pond. At the very depths of the black mud pool lay a black coffin, surrounded on all sides by black mud, or rather, a place of mud on all sides, containing countless white bones. These bones included those of humans and animals. All of them, from the past 400 years, had been unfortunately sucked in. This was the cultivation ground of the person Tang Ba feared most, Tang Yi. Tang Yi was a legend. He wasn't a descendant of Tang Yuan, but his own younger brother. He was the first core member of the clan, the only one. From ancient times to the present, no one had ever dared challenge, and the only one who had held the title Tang Yi for 400 years. About 1,000 miles from the Black Mud Pool, Wang Lin sensed something extremely unusual about this place. Instead of riding his beast, he flew there on his own. Almost instantly, he traveled thousands of miles. From the black mud coffin beneath the Black Mud Pool, a long, slender hand suddenly reached up. A man as thin as a stick, like a skeleton, slowly sat up from the coffin. His entire body was black, almost skin and bones, devoid of any flesh or blood. Only a few sparse strands of hair remained on his head. His whole appearance was truly terrifying. A gloomy light gradually flickered in his eyes as he slowly raised his head. At this moment, Wang Lin had flown into the air above the Black Mud Pool, his expression solemn, the Forbidden's banner already drawn and fluttering beside him. He glanced at the Black Mud Pool, and without hesitation, his eyes flashed with red light. His extreme realm divine consciousness activated, transforming into countless lightning bolts that continuously shot into the mud. Deep within the coffin in the Black Mud Pool, the skeletal figure's eyes gleamed with a sinister light. He saw streaks of lightning hurtling through the mud towards him. He extended his bony right hand and gently caught a red lightning bolt. Whoosh! The red lightning vanished, and his finger shattered. He smirked slightly, his eyes filled with a fierce fighting spirit as he slowly rose. Numerous red lightning bolts rained down from above, but each time he blocked them with his finger. Finally, after all the lightning bolts had disappeared, his right hand was riddled with cracks. He glanced at his right hand, and with a slight tremor, his arm crumbled and vanished. Ignoring it, his fighting spirit surged throughout his body. He curled his lips, and with a flash, he lunged forward. Wang Lin's expression had darkened considerably. He had clearly felt that the lightning bolts of the extreme realm divine consciousness had been completely annihilated by this man, who had sacrificed only his right arm? Previously, Wang Lin was absolutely certain that this person's cultivation had not yet reached the nascent soul stage, but unexpectedly, he was able to block the extreme realm divine consciousness. When the skeletal figure flew out from the black mud pool, Wang Lin, without hesitation, transformed the Forbidden's banner into a black curtain that enveloped everything around it. More than 90 Forbidden's artifacts, like black dragons, surged out from the curtain. He formed a hand seal, pointing directly at the black mud pool, and the spiritual incantation tore through the air. The skeletal figure, facing the incoming Forbidden's artifacts, remained expressionless, neither dodging nor evading, allowing the artifacts to strike him. Immediately, numerous cracks appeared on his body. But when the last Forbidden's artifact disappeared, his body, though cracked like a summer field, remained intact. Wang Lin's face darkened. He retreated, simultaneously forming a hand seal with his right hand, his index finger pointing at the black curtain in the air. Immediately, more than 10 Forbidden's artifact dragons appeared and swooped down. The skeletal figure lowered his head to look at the cracks on his body, then looked up at Wang Lin, a smirk playing on his lips, and suddenly vanished. Wang Lin, almost without hesitation, flashed to the side. With a ripping sound, his sleeve was violently pulled down into the mud. Where he had disappeared, the skeletal figure was clutching the corner of his robe, his eyes filled with even more intense fighting spirit. Wang Lin's scalp tingled slightly as he stared at the man. If he had reacted even a split second slower, he would have been instantly subdued. His gaze darkened, and the Forbidden's energy descended again, hurtling towards the opponent. The skeletal figure's eyes showed a bewildered expression. He neither dodged nor evaded, allowing the Forbidden's energy to bombard him, leaving more cracks in his body. Wang Lin's eyes flashed. Without waiting for the Forbidden's energy to dissipate, he unleashed dozens more Forbidden's energies, relentlessly charging forward. At the same time, his body didn't stand still, but flickered, disappearing and reappearing everywhere, controlling the relentlessly descending Forbidden's energy. And the red lightning bolts from his extreme realm also struck incessantly. The skeletal figure remained motionless, only extending his left hand to strike when the extreme realm's divine consciousness descended. Gradually, more and more cracks appeared on his body, and under the frenzied attack, his left hand was even shattered. This was an extremely bizarre battle. Even with Wang Lin's vast combat experience, he had never witnessed anything like it before. This person didn't dodge at all, ignoring the magical artifact's attack. However, such a frenzied attack was unbearable for Wang Lin, especially his extreme realm divine consciousness, which caused significant depletion of his nascent soul with each use. Wang Lin's body flashed, reappearing 100 miles away. He immediately took out a jade bottle from his storage bag, gulped down the contents, and quickly replenished his spiritual power. But at this very moment, the skinny, skeletal man suddenly raised his head and moved again. Wang Lin was startled, and his whole body instantly dodged. Almost at the instant the skeletal man reappeared, he narrowly avoided the attack. Cold sweat beaded on Wang Lin's forehead as he quickly digested the elixir, replenishing his depleted nascent soul. At the same time, he potted his storage bag, and an ancient-style sword sheath appeared in his hand. With lightning speed, he thrust a flying sword into the sheath. Instantly, a powerful flying sword shot out from its sheath, forming a massive sword energy that roared towards the skeleton. The man's eyes glazed over. The sword energy was incredibly powerful, but he neither dodged nor evaded, allowing it to strike his body. Finally, his skeletal frame couldn't withstand the blow and began to crumble. But just as his bones shattered, his eyes lit up, and his left hand awkwardly lifted, seemingly with some difficulty. His left arm, on the verge of breaking, formed a hand seal, and a sound like dry bones scraping against each other hissed, "Stop!" Immediately, his body, which should have been shattered, suddenly flashed with golden light, and then restored itself perfectly intact. Wang Lin took a deep breath, staring at him speechless. The man's eyes flashed as he stared intently at Wang Lin, his gaze blazing with fierce fighting spirit. His fist clenched, his body transforming into a blur as he punched towards Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he immediately retreated, but suddenly realized that the spiritual power around him seemed to be sucked away by some mysterious force. Unexpectedly, a restraining force seemed to appear all around him. Within it, he felt his speed severely restricted. At this moment, Wang Lin instantly regained his composure, quickly taking out the bronze ancient mirror from his storage bag, its light flashing towards his opponent. However, the light emitted from the mirror had no effect on the man. He clenched his fist and slammed it against the mirror. Several cracks appeared on the mirror, from which light flickered. Under this light, the restraining forces on all sides seemed to loosen slightly. Without hesitation, Wang Lin quickly flew out, and at the same time, despite the excruciating pain in his stomach, he still whispered, "Explode." The ancient bronze mirror suddenly emitted a dazzling light and exploded with a loud bang. This explosion created a powerful whirlwind, wildly sweeping in all directions. When the whirlwind dissipated, the skinny, skeletal man spat out a mouthful of yellow blood. As soon as the blood left his mouth, his whole body immediately went limp, his face filled with terror, and he rushed towards the source of the blood, trying to swallow it back. Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and instead of retreating, he leapt forward, clearly chasing after the strange yellow blood. Seeing Wang Lin also rushing towards him, the man tried to move even faster, reaching out to grab the blood. Wang Lin didn't dare delay and reached out to grab it as well. Both of them exerted their strength, and the blood split in two, flying towards them. The skeletal figure, having snatched the clot of blood, hastily swallowed it. A glint of light flashed in its eyes as it glared at its opponent and swiftly sped away. Wang Lin, having captured the remaining half of the clot, also wasted no time, dashing off into the distance. The two, one after the other, chased each other swiftly. Wang Lin, not daring to fly in a straight line, circled around the black mud pool. Sensing something strange about his opponent and recalling the golden clot of blood, he suddenly understood. He didn't know this golden clot of blood, but in the memories of the ancient god Tut, there was something very similar. In fact, this golden clot of blood wasn't anything particularly precious. It merely resembled the blood of an ancient god. Or perhaps it contained a trace of the blood of an ancient god. Judging by the other's attack, apart from condensing his body, there were almost no magical or spiritual energy fluctuations. It was entirely a brute force attack. This type of attack is certainly not a fighting method of the cultivation world. This person is like a dried corpse refined into a puppet, possessing only physical strength. Moreover, when Wang Lin unleashed his magic, he appeared extremely dazed, yet his dazed eyes still held a hint of emotion. Therefore, it can be said that this person was practicing some kind of bizarre cultivation technique and suffered a deviation, resulting in this appearance. The cultivation techniques of the cultivation world are truly countless, and Wang Lin couldn't possibly know them all. But his judgment was completely accurate. The technique Tang Yi cultivated was an ancient body refining divine ability. This divine ability wasn't originally from Zhou Kingdom, but was brought by the envoy from the Tongshan Tower. After cultivating this divine ability, the divine consciousness and sea of consciousness cease to exist and are integrated throughout the bones of the entire body. Therefore, Wang Lin's extreme realm divine consciousness lost its effectiveness in delivering a fatal blow. Wang Lin intently studied the golden blood clot, his eyes flickering incessantly. Gradually, he realized that this person's movements were not those of a corpse puppet, but rather a simulation of an ancient god. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes as he potted his storage bag. Immediately, a black mist flew out, transforming into two corpse puppets. These were puppets forged from the core of a nascent soul stage cultivator from the Tang family. He flicked drops of blood from his right hand, striking the puppet's forehead. Its eyes instantly widened, flashing with red light, and it roared as it lunged towards Tang Yi, wildly swinging its fists and kicks, attempting to stop him. Tang Yi's eyes flashed with a dark light, his fists clenched, and he slammed one puppet in the chest. Its body trembled and then shattered. Although its companion had perished, the remaining puppet seemed fearless, charging forward to continue the attack. Wang Lin seized the opportunity to quickly stop, throwing away the golden blood clot in his hand. He formed a strange hand seal with both hands, muttering a series of complex incantations. At this point, even someone with extensive knowledge of ancient times couldn't understand what language he was speaking, as it was the language of ancient gods, used to create a divine technique. In fact, Wang Lin knew many spells related to the language of ancient gods, but he lacked the inheritance of ancient god power, so he couldn't use them. Now, the divine technique he was about to unleash didn't require much ancient god power. The small amount of ancient god power in the golden blood clot was enough. Looking at it, he decided to perform this spell. As Wang Lin chanted the incantation, the golden blood clot quickly boiled, and a wisp of white gas escaped. As more and more gas escaped, the golden blood clot was compressed intensely, finally transforming into an ancient-style symbol. In an instant, this ancient symbol appeared in the hazy cloudless air, and then vanished in a flash. Immediately afterward, a golden light descended from the sky, and within the golden light, a figure entirely composed of spiritual power gradually emerged. The figure was enormous, almost touching the heavens with its head and feet touching the earth. As his body gradually solidified, 3/5 of the 5 spiritual veins in Zhao Kingdom instantly transformed into ordinary mountains. The spiritual power within his body surged wildly. The remaining 2/5 of the spiritual veins had their spiritual power completely dissipated. However, the ancient god's blood needed to trigger this divine power was still too little, insufficient for this colossal figure to fully solidify. It could only maintain an illusory state. Wang Lin's forehead was drenched in sweat. Activating this immense divine power was a tremendous strain on his body. A brilliant purple light flashed between his eyebrows, and Wang Lin, with great difficulty, pointed his right hand at the man. Seeing that things were going wrong, the man fled. The illusory figure immediately nodded, raised its enormous arm, and silently vanished. Unexpectedly, Teng Yi, who was far away, disappeared in a bizarre manner without any change in his body. In Wang Lin's consciousness, the light surrounding him also dimmed. Immediately afterward, a drop of golden blood slowly appeared where Teng Yi had disappeared. Wang Lin grabbed at the air, and the drop of blood flew into his hand. At this moment, the enormous illusory figure turned towards Wang Lin and disappeared towards the horizon. Simultaneously, the symbol formed by the golden blood slowly dissipated. At this time, throughout Zhao Kingdom, all cultivators above the nascent soul stage felt the abnormality. While flying in midair, Park Namja's face turned pale, and he immediately stopped, using his divine consciousness to scan the area, trying to sense something. At the same time, in Zhao Kingdom, at the center of the Tongshan Tower, a chubby middle-aged man sitting in meditation suddenly opened his eyes wide and stared into the distance. His eyes showed disbelief. This is the heaven-penetrating technique of the giant demon clan. Meanwhile, Wang Lin carefully retrieved a golden blood clot, sat down cross-legged, took out a bottle of pills, and quickly circulated the ancient divine technique to digest them. The puppet that hadn't been killed stood motionless beside him, but at this moment, the slightest rustling of leaves would send it leaping out. A day later, Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes and took a deep breath. If it weren't for the numerous elixirs he had consumed earlier, this time, using the ancient god's divine power, it would have taken at least half a month to fully recover. He stood up and glanced at the puppet beside him. It had several injuries, but according to the Jade Slip's description, the puppet could heal itself. He placed a hand seal on its forehead, and the puppet immediately transformed into a black mist and disappeared into his storage bag. Then Wang Lin turned his head again, looking at the emaciated man with a complex expression. This Tang family member was far more powerful than he had imagined. If he couldn't use the ancient god's divine power, he would ultimately have to resort to a killer move. He truly didn't want to use the heavenly tribulation thread unless absolutely necessary, because once it was used, his revenge plan might be completely halted. The heavenly tribulation thread was something Wang Lin had prepared to deal with the high-ranking envoy from the Tongshan Tower back then. This time, not only did he not need to use the heavenly tribulation thread, but he also obtained a drop of ancient god's blood, although this drop of ancient god's blood wasn't very pure and would run out if used too much. The truth proved that it could unleash an ancient divine ability once, even if only once, enough to save Wang Lin's life. Wang Lin summoned the Forbidden Banner with his right hand, glanced at it, and made up his mind that after dealing with the Tang family, he would find a place that could withstand the heavenly tribulation and place the final forbidden spell on the Forbidden Banner, allowing it to reach a new level. At that time, its power would increase greatly, and he wouldn't let things happen like today, with continuous attacks without the opponent showing any fear. For the first time, Wang Lin realized how few of his magical artifacts he truly was. The explosion of the ancient bronze mirror had caused him to lose another one, which was already limited. Up until now, the only artifacts he could bring out, besides the Forbidden Banner, were the mysterious sword sheath. As for the flying sword, its power was too weak and needed further refinement. Besides these three, There were a few others, but they could only be used in special circumstances. For example, the beast taming scroll. This thing, unless he encountered some truly powerful beasts, was useless otherwise. And then there was that mysterious scroll. Although Wang Lin had never opened it, each time he took it out, he felt a very strange sensation. It seemed as if a powerful creature was sealed within the scroll. His intuition told him that it absolutely could not be opened easily. Of course, he still had a few more magical treasures, but their power wasn't enough. After a moment of silence, he took out 3 storage bags from his chest. Faced with the risk of not having enough magical treasures, he had no choice but to focus his attention on these 3 bags. Through this battle, he had learned that the extreme realm divine consciousness wasn't invincible. There were many other things in the world that could counter or even counteract it. If he had cultivated the extreme realm to its peak, he wouldn't need to worry too much. But cultivating the extreme realm was truly difficult. Therefore, magical treasures became extremely important. Wang Lin didn't intend to place all his hopes on the extreme realm. If he did, once his extreme realm divine consciousness became unusable, it would be extremely dangerous. Gazing intently at the 3 storage bags, Wang Lin sighed. The Forbidden's banner vibrated, transforming into a black curtain that enveloped everything. From his forehead, 2 demonic heads flew out to guard him. After hesitating for a moment, he didn't summon any puppets. Having just been injured in a battle with that skeletal man, it was unsuitable for defense at this moment. Having prepared everything, Wang Lin concentrated his mind and searched for a storage bag. This storage bag belonged to the ancient emperor. It bore the character Lan. After a moment of contemplation, the spiritual power within him surged wildly. His clone, transformed into a nascent soul, opened its eyes, and a wave of oppressive spiritual power emanated from him. Wang Lin's expression was solemn as he slowly touched the bag with his right hand. Upon contact, a powerful resistance appeared. Wang Lin's heart sank. He knew the ancient emperor was not dead. Taking a deep breath, Wang Lin resolutely pressed down repeatedly, each time weakening the ancient emperor's consciousness. However, Wang Lin also suffered increasingly intense spiritual power backlash. After half an incensed 6th time, Wang Lin's forehead was covered in sweat. He panted heavily, took out several pills, and consumed them. After adjusting his internal energy, Wang Lin gritted his teeth again. His extreme realm divine consciousness flickered once more, appearing on his right hand, and along with the spiritual power in his body, he directed it towards the storage bag. The speed was clearly much faster now, but Wang Lin's consumption also increased. After he continuously used up the entire bottle of elixirs, a layer of white light gradually appeared on the outside of the bag. The white light became fainter and fainter, finally trembling slightly before disappearing. Wang Lin breathed a sigh of relief, his eyes showing excitement. He had opened the ancient emperor's storage bag. His divine consciousness entered to investigate, but his expression quickly turned strange. There were very few items in the ancient emperor's storage bag. Besides 2 top-grade spirit stones, there was only an ancient sword sheath. Wang Lin's divine sense stirred slightly, and the scabbard appeared in his hand. He examined it carefully for a long time, his brows furrowed. This scabbard and his own were surprisingly similar, differing only in their markings. After hesitating for a moment, Wang Lin took out his scabbard. As soon as the 2 scabbards appeared, the markings on them suddenly flashed brightly. After a long while, the light gradually faded. Wang Lin stared at the 2 scabbards, a feeling stirring within him that a great secret was hidden within them. After observing for a while longer, Wang Lin put the scabbards away. His ancient emperor's storage bag shattered with a single tap. Wang Lin sighed. He had wasted so much effort opening this storage bag, only to find this strange thing. Wang Lin didn't know if he was lucky or unlucky. He hesitated for a moment, his gaze shifting to the other 2 storage bags. Inside one were relics of the mysterious corpse from the war god temple in the fire-burning kingdom. The remaining one contained 10 magical artifacts. These artifacts originally belonged to ancient cultivators in the land of the ancient gods. However, their cultivation was too powerful. Wang Lin, after countless hardships, was only fortunate enough to control one artifact, the bronze ancient mirror. But he found this mirror's power not very strong, far from being worthy of being considered a top-tier artifact. This puzzled him somewhat. He picked up the storage bag and examined its contents with his divine consciousness. The defensive auras surrounding these artifacts remained unchanged. With his current cultivation level, he was far from being able to break through them. At this moment, Wang Lin was like being in a mountain of silver, yet unable to pick up a single coin. Sighing, Wang Lin picked up the last storage bag and swept his divine consciousness over it. There were waves of resistance outside this bag. Wang Lin gritted his teeth and, without a word, urged the spiritual power in his body, combining it with his extreme divine consciousness to erase the divine consciousness imprinted on it. But the moment his consciousness touched the storage bag, Wang Lin's body suddenly trembled. He felt his consciousness instantly traverse space. Before him appeared a vast expanse of land, with a sinister young man flying. His speed was unbelievable, something Wang Lin had never seen in his life. The young man, while flying, suddenly stopped, raised his head, his eyes revealing a cold glint, and slowly said, "You won't escape." Wang Lin's consciousness was momentarily thrown into disarray, and he immediately returned to his body. His body trembled slightly, and his eyes flashed with cold light. Although he couldn't discern the young man's cultivation level, judging from his speed, it was clearly not low, very likely far surpassing his own. Especially the scene he had just seen, Wang Lin recognized it at a glance. It was clearly the demon cultivation sea. Obviously, this person was the dried corpse from the fire-burning kingdom. He had taken this person's storage bag, and now that this person had awakened, he was pursuing him. If this person hadn't yet revealed his killing intent, Wang Lin would very likely return the storage bag. But now, the other party's killing intent was so intense that even if he returned it, this person wouldn't let him go. Therefore, Wang Lin's heart sank. After hesitating for a while, he immediately increased his divine consciousness and spiritual power, continuously erasing the divine consciousness on the storage bag. Time slowly passed. The divine consciousness on the storage bag gradually diminished. But at this rate, it would take hundreds of years to completely erase it. Wang Lin was silent for a moment, his eyes flashing, an idea forming in his mind. However, he didn't have the opportunity to put it into practice yet. Knowing his time was running out, he immediately stood up, his gaze towards Tang family city gradually turning icy cold. He whispered, "Tang Hui Yuan, I'm coming." Tang family city. In recent days, almost all the Tang family members had gathered there. They believed only here could they be safe. Seeing all his clansmen rushing towards him, Tang Hui Yuan's heart grew even more somber. He knew that Wang Lin was now on his way. Tang family city was now engulfed in crisis. The clansmen who had flocked from outside finally understood why the patriarch hadn't appeared to stop the slaughter. It wasn't that he didn't want to leave, but that the entire Tang family city, within 1,000 miles, was covered by a layer of restrictions. Only entry was possible, not exit. Therefore, the crisis erupted on all sides. At the same time, news of the mysterious figure massacring the Tang family gradually spread throughout Tang family city. Almost every member of the Tang family was constantly discussing with unease what kind of hatred this person had towards the Tang family to be so vicious as to want to wipe them out completely. All sorts of false rumors were spread within the Tang family. Surprisingly, some of them came close to the truth. Although Tang Hui Yuan tried to stop them, in this critical moment, how could human power stop such rumors? Gradually, the crisis among the Tang family members increased. One day, at dawn, the morning light was bright. The sky was clear for miles. This was the 9th day since the Tang family massacre. From across the country, anyone with Tang family blood who hadn't died had gathered in Tang family city. Today is a bloody day for the Tang family, a day of their complete annihilation. Even hundreds of years later, when this day is mentioned, many cultivators in the Zhao kingdom will still be shaken, their faces turning pale. Today is the day the political landscape of the Zhao kingdom changed. The day blood flowed like a river. Today, the ground of the Tang family's city was drenched in fresh blood, soaking the city walls. It was also the day that everyone in the Zhao kingdom knew the name Wang Lin. His cold figure with his flowing silver hair sent chills down the spines of many cultivators. At the same time, the name Wang Lin replaced Park Namjae as the #1 person in the Zhao kingdom. On this day, many great cultivators of the Zhao kingdom also perished. Early in the morning, 1,000 miles outside the Tang family's city, Wang Lin rode his spirit beast, slowly flying towards them. Behind his body, preserved by magic to prevent decomposition, lay a mountain of perfectly preserved corpses. Because Wang Lin wanted to behead the Tang family, Wang Lin's flying speed wasn't particularly fast. He looked at Tang Family City ahead, his heart filled with emotion. 400 years ago, he was forced to self-destruct by Tang Yuan, nearly dying. 400 years later, he had returned, bringing with him killing intent and a heart full of hatred. 400 years had passed, and finally, he had waited for this day. Wang Lin landed on an open field 1,000 miles away from Tang Family City. He coldly looked at Tang Family City, slowly and deliberately removing the dragon scales from the mouth of the beast, then releasing the tightly bound corpses onto the ground. He decapitated every corpse. His movements were quick, clean, and his expression was icy cold, devoid of any emotion. Gradually, the number of severed heads beside him increased. Each head bore a different expression, but they all shared one thing in common: terror and unwillingness to die. As the number of heads increased, the resentment emanating from them grew stronger. Cold winds arose, and the sky seemed to darken. A massive tower made of human heads slowly appeared in the open space. This was a tower built from the heads of the Tang family. Anyone who saw it felt a chill run down their spine. Wang Lin placed the last severed head on top of the tower. Then, raising his right hand, the tower, constructed from thousands of heads, instantly soared into the sky, gently hovering behind him. The tower followed him, slowly entering the forbidden formation of the Tang Family City. Tang Yuan, today I, Wang, have come here. Don't expect anyone to escape. All will die. A voice filled with hatred suddenly echoed through Tangia City. In an instant, Tangia City fell into complete silence. But very quickly, the silence was replaced by terrifying screams. Almost simultaneously, several experts of the Tang family saw a towering, human-headed pagoda slowly approaching. Gradually, more and more people saw the pagoda. An atmosphere of fear immediately filled the space. Tang Yuan stood on the city wall with a gloomy expression. Beside him were 4 people. These 4 were the last remaining nascent soul cultivators of the Tang family. Suddenly, Tang Yuan pointed at the 4 people. In an instant, they vanished from their positions. When they reappeared, they were standing about 100 feet in front of Wang Lin. As soon as the 4 appeared, they immediately took out various magical artifacts. But standing on Wang Lin's final path of revenge, how could these 4 people stop him? Although Wang Lin's heart had grown cold, a hint of madness flickered in his eyes. Today, he wanted to vent all the resentment from 400 years ago. Today, he wanted to become a madman, a bloodthirsty madman. There seemed to be no hesitation. Just as the 4 appeared, the Supreme Realm Divine Consciousness suddenly stirred. Red lightning bolts shot out continuously. The 4 nascent soul cultivators, before they could even retrieve their magical artifacts, let out a scream. Outside their bodies, the Supreme Realm Divine Consciousness transformed into a cage, trapping all 4 inside. At the same time, Wang Lin's body moved slightly, leaping into the cage and raising his hand to strike. The head of the first person was kicked flying into the tower. Another head in the tower. Blood gushed from the corpse like a fountain. The body fell from the sky to the ground. Wang Lin spun around forcefully, a flying sword suddenly appearing in his hand. With a single swing of the sword, another head flew up. Another tower of heads. All of this happened incredibly fast. Only 2 of the 4 remained. The other 2 were imprisoned by the Extreme Realm, unable to resist. When Wang Lin shouted kill, the Extreme Realm's divine consciousness suddenly contracted, like tiny threads, cutting through the bodies of the 2 men. Fresh blood rained down from the sky, vaguely mixed with pieces of mangled flesh. But thanks to Wang Lin's efforts, the 2 heads remained intact. 2 more towers of heads. After killing all 4, Wang Lin stood upright, raising his head to look at Tang Yuan standing on Tang Family City, a cruel smile appearing on his lips. Seeing that smile, Tang Yuan felt a chill run down his spine. 4 nascent soul cultivators were unexpectedly killed so easily by him. What level of cultivation had Wang Lin reached? Tang Yuan's scalp tingled. He realized he had made a mistake. The forbidden formation surrounding them was clearly not set up by anyone else, but by the killer who had come to take his life. Tang Yuan, are you all right? Wang Lin's eyes held only hatred. Yet his demeanor was calm, even a smile playing on his lips. As he spoke, Wang Lin's right hand rose from the air, instantly transforming into a large hand that descended upon Tang Family City. More than 10 people, men and women, cultivators and ordinary people, screamed in terror as they flew up from within Tang family city. The moment Wang Lin finished speaking, his right hand clenched tightly. Immediately, several loud boom boom sounds rang out. Those people, except for their heads, had their entire bodies blown apart, turning into a rain of blood that fell upon Tang family city. A drop of blood splattered on Tang Yuan's face, making him tremble even more. The tower now had 10 more severed heads. Wang Lin, a powerful killing intent emanated from Tang Yuan. He lightly waved his right hand, and a yellow flag instantly appeared in his grasp. He swung the flag, and a cloud of mist immediately emerged from it. Immediately afterward, the mist transformed into a gigantic skeleton, emitting guttural growls, roaring at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. He potted his storage bag, instantly taking out a soul banner. He waved his hand, and over 1,000 souls, emitting mournful cries, flew out from the banner. Tang Yuan, that year you used the souls of my family members to oppress me. Today, I, Wang, will return them to you. You can devour these souls as you please. I, Wang, will not feel any pain. Wang Lin's voice was calm. As he spoke, his right hand grabbed, and over 100 members of the Tang family flew up from Tang family city. No matter how much they struggled, it was useless. At this moment, Tang Yuan let out a soft shout, and with a wave of his sleeve, a strange wine suddenly appeared, attempting to sever Wang Lin's magic. A sarcastic smile appeared on Wang Lin's lips. The supreme realm divine consciousness in his eyes flashed, transforming into a red lightning bolt that penetrated the strange wine, causing it to disappear instantly. Then Wang Lin clenched his fist. Over 100 people instantly exploded. Blood and flesh rained down from the sky like a storm. At this moment, all the clansmen inside Tang family city could no longer withstand such continuous attacks. It was unclear who started it, but streaks of sword light radiated from within the city in all directions. Wang Lin's lips curled into a cruel smile. With a flick of his right hand, over 1,000 souls instantly appeared in the air. They quickly dispersed, flying towards the Tang family members to devour them. Tang Yuan's body flashed. He gritted his teeth and lightly waved the yellow flag in his hand. The yellow skeleton standing in front of him instantly flashed, splitting into over 1,000 pieces, flying towards the souls to devour them. Tang Yuan's actions were no different from personally killing his clansmen. Wang Lin's body flashed, disappearing from the spot. When he reappeared, he was beside a Tang family member who was flying like an arrow. This was a young man whose cultivation had only reached the 3rd level of the condensation chess stage. 10 days ago, he was proud to be a member of the Tang family. But now, he wishes he could just discard the name Tang and sever all ties. But he had no chance left. He glanced to the side and was horrified to see the silver-haired young man. Immediately afterward, a cold hand grabbed his neck. A crack echoed, and the young man died. After killing one person, Wang Lin's body flashed again. This time, he appeared beside a very beautiful girl. But to Wang Lin, she was just another dead person. He felt no pity for her because she was a woman. Because her family and the Wang family had an irreconcilable feud. Crushing the girl's delicate, white neck, Wang Lin's body flashed again. Tang Yuan roared in anger, his body flashing as well. But his speed was always slightly slower than Wang Lin's. Each time he tried to intervene, he saw another member of his family being lost. The agonizing feeling of watching his clansmen perish one by one, powerless to stop it, drove Tang Yuan insane. Suddenly, he saw Wang Lin appear in the distance. Beside Wang Lin was a frail young man. This was the 7th generation direct descendant, whom Tang Yuan had watched grow up day by day. No, Tang Yuan's eyes turned bloodshot, his speed like an arrow. Wang Lin coldly watched Tang Yuan flying towards him, his right hand placed on the young man's head. Under the hateful gaze of the other party, he subtly unleashed his spiritual power. Boom! With a loud bang, the young man's body exploded into a mass of blood and flesh. From now on, there will be no more Tang family. After killing him, Wang Lin vanished from the spot. Tang Yuan stared blankly at the bloody, gooey mess of his grandson's body on the ground, letting out a pained roar. Wang Lin. Wang Lin appeared 100 yards away, coldly saying, "Pain." When you slaughtered my entire clan back then, did you feel any pain?" After saying that, he lightly flicked his right hand, and a middle-aged man nearby, fleeing in terror, let out a scream as his body turned into a bloody, gooey mess. "I slaughtered your entire clan because you killed Deng Li, my great-grandson." Deng Hui Yuan roared, his face ferocious. "Nonsense! Does this mean only your Deng family is allowed to kill others, while others cannot resist?" Wang Lin sneered, patting his storage bag. 10 flying swords immediately shot out, sweeping downwards. Another 10 people died before Deng Hui Yuan's eyes. Deng Hui Yuan clenched his fist. He waved the yellow flag in his hand, and immediately all the yellow bone fragments gathered together and lunged towards Wang Lin. Wang Lin patted his storage bag. The Forbidden's banner instantly appeared in his hand. He shook his hand slightly and a black screen immediately appeared, enveloping the yellow bones inside. Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and he said, "Deng Hui Yuan, how did you find my hometown back then?" Deng Hui Yuan's face contorted, staring at Wang Lin, his eyes revealing deep hatred, and he said, "You will never know." Wang Lin's expression darkened. He waved his right hand, and immediately more than 90 Forbidden's artifacts flew out from the black screen. They rushed downwards. In an instant, hundreds of members of the Deng family died, screaming in agony. "Will you speak or not?" Deng Hui Yuan patted his storage bag. A large sword immediately flew out from inside. This sword had an ancient appearance. He bit his tongue, spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, and his whole body immediately slumped down. But the sword suddenly flashed, its tip pointing towards Wang Lin. The entire sword shimmered with electric light, and it flew towards him with a roar. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. In the instant the great sword flew towards him, his extreme realm divine consciousness quickly spread out, transforming into a series of lightning bolts, instantly enveloping the flying sword. A series of thunderous sounds rang out, and the light of the great sword dimmed somewhat. Finally, Wang Lin's body trembled slightly, his extreme realm divine consciousness exhausted. At the same time, cracks appeared on the great sword, and it turned into dust. Wang Lin waved his hand, and several nascent souls of the Tang family flew out from his storage bag. After being swallowed into his body, the nascent soul's essence quickly replenished the lost energy. Deng Hui Yuan stared blankly at the disappearing greatsword, his body instantly becoming frail. Wang Lin's right hand formed a hand seal, and he pointed it at his forehead. The Demon Lord Siliguo and the third Demon Lord immediately flew out. Under Wang Lin's divine sense, they excitedly roared and flew towards the Tang family members on all sides. In an instant, several more people screamed in agony and died. Each scream made Deng Hui Yuan's body tremble. "Will you speak or not?" Wang Lin's voice was extremely cold. Deng Hui Yuan took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. He didn't even glance at Deng Hui Yuan. He changed his hand gestures and cast a forbidden spell. Instantly, the forbidden spell 1,000 miles outside Tang family city suddenly stirred and slowly contracted. The Tang clan members watched in despair as the restrictions continuously contracted. Their emotions underwent two contrasting transformations. The first completely abandoned any thought of resistance. The second, their eyes blazing with fury. Each took out their magical artifacts, disregarding everything else, like moths drawn to a flame, charging towards Wang Lin. Gradually, more and more Tang clan members rushed towards Wang Lin. But as soon as they entered within a 1,000-mile radius, they were struck by the Forbidden's energy in the sky. All of them quickly turned into a rain of blood, falling all over the ground. The clan members screamed in agony. Each scream echoed in Deng Hui Yuan's ears, causing his body to tremble violently, his heart filled with pain. He tried to resist, but even the magical artifacts gifted by the high-level cultivation nation were useless. Deng Hui Yuan's face grew even more aged. At this moment, he was no longer the dignified man he once was, but merely an old man standing helplessly, watching his clansmen being slaughtered without being able to protect them. I will speak." Deng Hui Yuan's eyes were filled with deep hatred. He looked at Wang Lin, speaking each word distinctly. "If my Tang family faces calamity, no one will escape. Back then, Gao Kaiming of the Misty sect used divination to help me locate the Wang family's residence. It was him. Go find him. Now, he is the patriarch of the Misty sect." Gao Kaiming. Wang Lin stared intently at Deng Hui Yuan. Regardless of whether the other party was telling the truth or lying, Wang Lin had to remember this name. Looking at Tang Ichui Yuan, Wang Lin's expression suddenly changed. Then he glanced into the distance. Immediately, killing intent flared in his eyes. He swung his right hand, and the restrictions suddenly contracted with even greater speed. Instantly, from 1,000 miles away, they immediately retracted to him. During this process, any cultivator inside didn't even have time to utter a scream before they were all killed. At the same time, a pile of severed heads, controlled by a mysterious force, flew towards the tower and fell upon it. Gradually, the tower of heads grew larger and larger, almost piercing the clouds. By this time, the entire Tang clan, except for Tang Ichui Yuan, was dead. Blood flowed like a river on the ground, emitting a pungent smell of fresh blood. Tang Ichui Yuan stared blankly at the scene before him, then suddenly burst into laughter, his laughter filled with endless sorrow. 2 streams of blood tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. Wang Lin silently watched Tang Ichui Yuan. After a long time, Tang Ichui Yuan took a deep breath, looked up at the sky, his voice filled with grief and indignation, and said, "Good, good. From now on, all grievances between the Wang and Tang clans are erased. I annihilated your entire clan, and you wiped out my bloodline. Karma is cyclical, truly cyclical. Wang Lin, go ahead and strike." Wang Lin raised his right hand, and a sharp, transparent light flashed on his fingertips. The spiritual power in his body surged, condensing at his fingertips. But at that moment, a loud shout came from the horizon. "Stop!" Hearing that voice, Tang Ichui Yuan immediately knew that Park Nam Tiu had arrived, and his heart was filled with ecstatic joy. He knew that today he still had a chance to live. His eyes, fixed on Wang Lin, were filled with intense killing intent. His will to live instantly burned brightly. If there was even the slightest possibility, he absolutely did not want to die. The idea of forgetting grudges was merely something he had said when he thought he was certain to die. Today, as long as he was alive, Tang Ichui Yuan swore that he would reach the God transformation stage in his lifetime. Even if he had to sacrifice everything, he would reach the God transformation realm. Then, he wanted to brutally kill Wang Lin to avenge today's humiliation. However, he overestimated Park Namzi and underestimated Wang Lin. From the moment Park Namzi appeared from tens of thousands of miles away, he was detected by Wang Lin's divine consciousness, which was comparable to the nascent soul stage. Therefore, how could he let Park Namzi stop him? The instant Park Namzi appeared, the sharp point of light in Wang Lin's hand shot out, piercing Tang Ichui Yuan's forehead a single blow, taking his life. Exactly as he had said, from now on, all enmity between the Wang and Tang families was erased. The Tang family's bloodline had vanished from the world. Everything was completely severed. Park Namzi's figure suddenly appeared before his eyes. He stared blankly at the countless pieces of flesh and blood on the ground. He then saw Tang Ichui Yuan's corpse fall, having just begun to cling to life. Finally, his gaze rose to the towering pagoda, its peak reaching into the clouds, and he immediately felt a chill. Without hesitation, he instantly formed a hand seal. Suddenly, 2 streaks of blue and pink light flew out from the storage bag he was wearing. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged as he stared at Park Namzi, calmly saying, "You've arrived too late." Park Namzi looked at Wang Lin, suddenly stunned. Then carefully examined him several times, exclaiming, You're the disciple of the Hengyu sect from back then?" Wang Lin glanced at Park Namzi, but said nothing. His supreme realm divine consciousness instantly attacked Park Namzi. The 2 streaks of blue and pink light automatically enveloped him, forming a defensive barrier. The moment the supreme realm divine consciousness descended, the 2 streaks of blue and pink light quickly flickered, finally resisting. But their dazzling brilliance had vanished, becoming incredibly dim. Phak Nam Ti's expression changed. Without hesitation, he bit his tongue, spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood that landed on the 2 blue and pink light circles. Then, pointing at Wang Lin, Phak Nam Ti shouted, "Go!" Immediately, the 2 blue and pink circles flew away like arrows. Around them, layers upon layers of space were constantly being torn apart. Wang Lin waved his right hand, and all the Forbidden's artifacts within the Forbidden's banner appeared. They combined to form a giant dragon, blocking the 2 blue and pink light circles. However, the quality of the 2 blue and pink light circles was clearly extremely high. The Forbidden's artifacts only slowed them down, but could not stop their attack. Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and his extreme realm divine consciousness surged out again. This time, his divine consciousness continuously transformed into lightning bolts, rushing forward with a thunderous roar. But its target was not the two blue and pink light circles, but Phak Nam Ti. Park Namja's expression changed drastically. At this critical moment, a large hand suddenly emerged from the void, seizing the lightning bolts formed by the Supreme Realm's divine consciousness. With a slight twist, the lightning bolts shattered and vanished. However, the hand itself trembled. A low grunt emanated from the void. Immediately afterward, a middle-aged man in bright clothes, slightly plump, appeared before Park Namya. He glanced at Wang Lin, his eyes widening in surprise. But then a look of joy appeared on his face as he said, "So it's you." Having said that, he waved his right hand. And two rings of blue and pink light instantly returned to his side, circling around him. Only after the middle-aged man appeared did Park Namya breathe a sigh of relief, bowing respectfully and saying, "Greetings, envoy." Although Phak Nam Ti felt safer, a vague numbness spread across his scalp. He didn't know what kind of magical artifact that pink lightning bolt was. But in that instant when the lightning bolt struck him, he felt the same sensation as when he fought in the Outer Realm battlefield years ago, teetering between life and death. He had no doubt that if the great envoy hadn't appeared, he would be a corpse by now. Thinking of this, his gaze turned towards Wang Lin, his expression a mixture of deep fear and regret. "You didn't die, moreover. In such a short period of 400 years, you've reached such a level of cultivation. Very good. Hand over the heaven-defying pearl, and I will spare your life. Afterwards, I will let you become the leader of Jiao Kingdom, all right?" The middle-aged man stared at Wang Lin, speaking slowly. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. This man's appearance was also within his expectations. Moreover, even from 1,000 miles away, he had discovered this person's whereabouts. It was the messenger from the Tongshan Tower, a member of the 4th-level cultivation nation. In terms of cultivation, Wang Lin thought that this person, apart from being in the transformation god stage, had no other capabilities. If not in the transformation god stage, how could he have so easily destroyed a supreme realm divine consciousness? As for how this person knew Wang Lin possessed the heaven-defying pearl, he had carefully considered this since his revenge. Therefore, while he was in Jiao Kingdom, his divine consciousness remained covering his entire body. Thus, with his divine consciousness comparable to that of a transformation god, unless they were right next to him or face to face, no one could see his face. Even less could anyone use their divine consciousness to probe him. That's why, during the 9 days he killed the man, the other party hadn't appeared. Actually, the middle-aged man also had some ulterior motives. During this time, his divine consciousness frequently probed the borders of Jiao Kingdom. However, he still couldn't find the mysterious person who murdered the entire Tang family, which puzzled him. Unless the other party's divine consciousness was as powerful as his own, it was simply impossible. But it's also worth noting that his cultivation, though not progressing for 400 years, remained at the early stage of the transformation god realm. With this level of cultivation, absolutely no one in Jiao Kingdom could be stronger. Yet, he couldn't have known that Wang Lin's cultivation was at the nascent soul stage, but his divine consciousness had reached the late stage of the transformation god realm. Not to mention him, even the enormous giant demon clan member from years ago, who had personally come here and used his divine consciousness to search, absolutely couldn't have detected Wang Lin. Such things are extremely rare in the cultivation world. In short, among all living beings, Wang Lin was the only one who could devour souls. On the other hand, there was that strange pink lightning bolt just now. Although the middle-aged man appeared calm on the surface, in reality, the pink lightning bolt seemed to penetrate deep into his bones, causing some damage to his consciousness. The wound wasn't large, but it still frightened him. Seeing the opponent appear, Wang Lin's eyes flashed. Without saying much, he immediately took out a drop of blood from his storage bag. A drop of golden blood from an ancient god emitted waves of oppressive power. "I've been waiting for you for a long time." Wang Lin's eyes blazed with killing intent. He lightly touched the drop of blood with his right hand, causing it to instantly boil, transforming into a golden symbol, and then suddenly soaring into the sky. At this moment, rumbling sounds erupted in the sky, and streams of golden light shone down. A giant appeared within the golden light. The moment he appeared, the entire land of Zhao Kingdom trembled slightly, and the sky and earth were enveloped in a dazzling golden light. All plants, all ordinary people and cultivators, all living beings were affected. Although Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged, the spiritual power in his body was rapidly depleted. The moment the giant appeared, Wang Lin struggled to raise his hand and point at the middle-aged man. The giant nodded, his gaze sweeping across the area where Wang Lin pointed, and he raised his large hand, gently waving it. The middle-aged man's face instantly changed. He felt an intense sense of danger. He hastily grabbed Park Nam-jae, who was standing stunned watching the strange phenomenon in the sky, and shielded him with his body. Park Nam-jae's body silently turned to dust. Even the middle-aged man's right hand vanished in an instant. The middle-aged man let out a painful roar, his face turning pale. He quickly retreated, simultaneously tearing open his storage bag with his left hand and taking out a jade slip. Without hesitation, he crushed it, and a white light appeared as the jade slip shattered, enveloping the middle-aged man. Then, he vanished instantly. As the middle-aged man fled, the giant in the sky also gradually dissipated. Wang Lin's body trembled slightly, and he immediately took out a pill from his storage bag and consumed it. His divine consciousness suddenly expanded, searching for the middle-aged man's whereabouts. After a while, Wang Lin raised his eyebrows. The man's aura had disappeared in Zhao Kingdom. Recalling how the man had crushed the jade slip, Wang Lin guessed that the jade slip was probably a teleportation array leading to some place, allowing him to instantly travel a great distance. A level for Cultivation Kingdom truly possesses powerful magical artifacts. It's unbelievable. Wang Lin muttered to himself, taking a deep breath. Actually, his guess was somewhat accurate. What the middle-aged man used was the escape jade slip given to all important disciples of the Cha sect. As long as they didn't exceed a certain range, they could be instantly transported back to the sect's headquarters, no matter where they were. Even the envoy was frightened away by Wang Lin. The giant emitting a yellow light, he knew it was the heaven connecting technique of the giant demon clan. Its power was terrifying. Even he wasn't sure he could withstand it. In Zhao Kingdom, he had seen the heaven connecting technique twice, and this was the third time he had seen Wang Lin use it. He truly didn't want to provoke such enemies, even if their cultivation was only at the nascent soul stage. Therefore, without much thought, he instantly used a Piao Nanzi to block the attack, then crushed the jade slip and escaped. Wang Lin sat cross-legged, meditating. After a long time, he straightened up, raising his right hand. The Tang family's human-headed pagoda, lifted high by him, flew with his figure. Below the Hengyu Mountains, in Wang Lin's childhood village, all the villagers, after being swept away by a strange wind, fell asleep one after another on the ground. Then, at the Wang family's ancestral home, a human-headed pagoda suddenly rose up. Beneath the pagoda, Wang Lin knelt on the ground, bowing his head several times, hot tears streaming down his face. He stared blankly at the ancestral home. Gradually, night fell. Wang Lin sighed, and with his right hand, he patted the human-headed pagoda. The towering pagoda instantly turned to dust, blown away by the wind. The great revenge has been taken, father, mother. From now on, I will walk my own path. Wang Lin silently stood up, turned around, and left the mountain village. When he left, all the villagers woke up with a commotion. Seeing that it was already dark, they all knelt on the ground, begging the gods for protection. Wang Lin flew through the air. He had already put the spirit beast into his storage bag. Not long after, he arrived at a cliff. This was the very place where he had fallen many years ago. Looking at the cliff, Wang Lin took a deep breath, then sat down on the ground, staring blankly at the sky. At this moment, countless thoughts raced through his mind. All the scenes from 400 years ago flashed before him. Now that the Tang family had been destroyed, he was no longer burdened by anything, and his mood had changed somewhat. Wang Lin understood that he was no longer an ordinary person, but was embarking on the path of cultivation. A path full of hardships and dangers, but he had to persevere. After 400 years, he understood that only strength was the only way to protect himself. My childhood dream of becoming an immortal has been amplified immeasurably at this moment. As for Sichuan, only when his cultivation reaches the nascent soul stage can Sichuan leave the heaven-defying continent. There's also the vast universe in the ancient god's memory, with its many powerful life forms. All of these things deeply moved Wang Lin. Wang Lin stood up straight, gazing into the distance. A strange light flickered in his eyes. At this moment, Wang Lin's thoughts underwent a transformation. From his childhood, he entered the cultivation world to save face for his parents. After their death, he cultivated immortality to gain immense power for revenge. Now, with his great revenge avenged, he must actively pursue the path of immortality for his dream, for the sake of truly becoming an immortal. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He leapt up, falling from the cliff. In an instant, he arrived at the cave from years ago. After a quick glance, his body swiftly vanished from the spot. In the misty sect, Cao Kai-ming sat cross-legged in seclusion in a secret chamber. Before him lay a bronze mirror. His expression was somewhat grim. 200 years ago, he had calculated that a great calamity would befall him. Unfortunately, it was too vague. With his cultivation level, he couldn't make a clear prediction. As time passed, the feeling of impending doom grew stronger. It wasn't until the members of the Tang family died one by one that he suddenly realized he only had 10 days left. If he didn't die within those 10 days, the calamity would befall the entire Misty sect. Today was the 10th day. Cao Kai-ming had believed in the Tao of Heaven his entire life. This was closely related to his cultivation method. He understood that he absolutely had to die today. Otherwise, danger would engulf the entire Misty sect. Therefore, many days ago, he had begun making arrangements for the sect's demise. At this moment, he had nothing left to worry about, sitting quietly inside the secret chamber. He took a deep breath, glancing around to record the scene. Then he raised his right hand and decisively struck his forehead. A stream of fresh blood flowed from his mouth. His eyes became hazy, gradually darkening. At this moment, he suddenly saw a scene 400 years ago. He accepted Tang Hui Yuan's request to search for a family of a foundation establishment stage disciple. He understood a little of it, closed his eyes, stopped breathing, and died. Wang Lin was outside an ancient teleportation array in a mountain gorge. After taking one last look at Zhao Kingdom, he opened the array and instantly disappeared from Zhao Kingdom. 10 days later, a young man with a sinister appearance suddenly appeared outside the array. He stared at the array, said little, and stepped inside. In a plane more than 1,000,000 miles away from Zhao Kingdom, Wang Lin's figure slowly appeared. Upon appearing, his divine consciousness immediately swept around. Then he took out the jade slip map and examined it carefully. Afterward, his body moved slightly, flying towards the next teleportation array. Wang Lin knew that the owner of the storage bag was relentlessly pursuing him. If he didn't leave the other party far behind, he wouldn't be able to cultivate peacefully. Therefore, the teleportation array was now his target. Wang Lin had many top-grade spirit stones in his bag, enough for him to use the teleportation array several times. After half a month, Wang Lin arrived at a teleportation array. After inspecting it for a while, he stood inside the array, took out a top-grade spirit stone, and placed it on top. But at this moment, a dark cloud suddenly appeared in the distance. The clouds slowly transformed into a sinister young man. The man's eyes were dark and menacing, staring intently at Wang Lin inside the teleportation array. Wang Lin's heart sank. The opponent's speed was several times faster than he had anticipated. Moreover, Wang Lin's divine sense couldn't detect his cultivation level. An extremely dangerous aura immediately enveloped the surroundings. If he were to simply rely on top-grade spirit stones to open the teleportation array, it would take about 10 breaths of time. But now was a critical moment, so Wang Lin didn't say much and frantically channeled the spiritual power in his body, quickly transferring it from his feet into the array. The speed of opening the teleportation array suddenly accelerated. Finally, just as the sinister young man caught up, a crack suddenly appeared in the array, and Wang Lin's figure vanished. The sinister young man suddenly roared in anger, his hands forming a hand seal, and his body suddenly shot forward. The moment Wang Lin disappeared, he also stepped into the void of the teleportation array. Then, using some unknown technique, he caused the teleportation array to open again, and then vanished inside the void. As Wang Lin passed through the teleportation array, the sense of danger intensified. He could clearly feel an immense, unimaginable surge of divine consciousness, like a raging storm, sweeping towards him. This terrified Wang Lin. Seeing it about to devour him, Wang Lin's supreme realm divine consciousness suddenly stirred, transforming into the largest red lightning bolt ever seen, crashing straight towards the opponent. The divine consciousness, struck by the Supreme Realm's attack, slowed down slightly. At this moment, a light appeared ahead, and Wang Lin, like a flash of lightning, shot out from within the beam of light. After appearing, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. The clone that had transformed into a nascent soul within his body immediately became listless, seemingly on the verge of disintegrating at any moment. But Wang Lin didn't dare stop, instantly disappearing from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already hundreds of miles away. Immediately afterward, he stopped running and raised his right hand. From his hand, the small red thread flew out. Wang Lin knew that no matter how fast he ran, he couldn't match the opponent's speed. Moreover, the nascent soul's vital energy in his body was now depleted too much. If he continued, he would explode and die without the opponent even having to attack. Therefore, he used the time it took to teleport to this place and quickly took out the Heavenly Tribulation Thread. This was his most powerful magic treasure at the moment. The moment he took out the Heavenly Tribulation Thread, Wang Lin also pulled out a bottle of elixirs from his storage bag and poured them all into his mouth. At this moment, the sinister young man silently appeared 10 meters in front of Wang Lin, staring intently at the Heavenly Tribulation Thread in Wang Lin's hand, his expression grim. Heavenly Tribulation Power. I didn't expect such a high-level treasure to exist on this small, abandoned cultivation planet. The sinister young man stared at the thread in Wang Lin's hand, speaking slowly. Wang Lin had been staring intently at the other party all this time. Only when the other party showed a hint of hesitation upon seeing the Heavenly Tribulation Thread did he breathe a sigh of relief. If the other party had shown indifference or disregarded the Heavenly Tribulation Power, Wang Lin would have had no choice but to enter the heaven-defying space to seek refuge. Although this wasn't a good solution either. At this moment, the sinister young man also felt a little annoyed. He hadn't expected to see Heavenly Tribulation Power here. If his cultivation were still in its prime, he would have been absolutely certain of destroying the Heavenly Tribulation if he encountered it. But now, he had only recovered 3/10 of his cultivation, equivalent to the early stage of the nascent soul realm. Therefore, while he could still withstand the Heavenly Tribulation, his cultivation would ultimately drop again. If he were to fall below the nascent soul realm someday, he would have no choice but to stay and find a place to cultivate in seclusion, unable to leave this planet. Because the lowest requirement to use the star compass was the nascent soul realm. This wasn't the most important thing, though. The crucial point was that just now, inside the teleportation array, he felt a power that shook his mind. That power was extremely familiar to him. The sinister young man snorted softly, ignoring the Heavenly Tribulation, his gaze fixed on Wang Lin, and shouted, "Junior, hand over your storage bag, and this matter will be settled. Is this what you want, Senior?" Wang Lin's gaze was serious as he stared at the man, then pulled out a storage bag from his chest. The sinister young man's eyes shifted to the bag, and he nodded, saying, "That's right, throw it over." Wang Lin hesitated slightly. The opponent's speed was too fast. Although he wanted the opponent to leave this place, or at least wait until he was a certain distance away before taking out the storage bag, it would be useless. If the opponent really wanted to chase him, it would be very easy. After a moment of silence, Wang Lin decided to throw out the storage bag. The sinister young man caught the storage bag, scanned it with his divine consciousness, and his expression softened slightly. He looked at Wang Lin, his expression unreadable, neither happy nor angry. Wang Lin stared at the opponent, held out the Heavenly Tribulation Thread, and slowly said, "Senior, I've returned your storage bag. I bid you farewell." Having said that, he carefully retreated. The sinister young man looked at Wang Lin, a strange glint in his eyes. Immediately, 2 beams of 5-colored light shot out from his eyes like arrows, hurtling towards Wang Lin at an unimaginable speed. Wang Lin was very cautious. He didn't seem to hesitate at all. His Supreme Realm Divine Consciousness instantly shot out from his eyes, colliding with the opponent's 5-colored light. Immediately afterward, Wang Lin spat out a mouthful of blood, his Supreme Realm Divine Consciousness transforming into a lightning bolt and shattering beneath the 5-colored light. At the same time, Wang Lin's body instantly retreated. In an instant, he potted his storage bag and took out the Forbidden Banner. Then, he swung his right hand, casting a forbidden spell on the Forbidden Banner. At this moment, the sinister young man's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly said, "Stop, young friend, don't be impulsive." After saying that, he quickly retreated a few steps, staring intently at the forbidden spanner, a look of fear on his face. He smiled bitterly to himself. A single thread of heavenly tribulation could drastically reduce his cultivation, but at most, he would only be in seclusion for a little over 1,000 years. But upon seeing the banner in Wang Lin's hand, he immediately understood why the young man before him possessed heavenly tribulation power. Although he didn't recognize the banner, a glance was enough to tell that it was a type of magical artifact that could act as a conduit for heavenly tribulation. He had several such artifacts in his storage bag. He knew it could unleash the power of heavenly tribulation. If he were to get entangled with that young man now, he might not only lower his cultivation, but very likely never be able to recover it again. A few traces of blood still clung to the corners of Wang Lin's mouth. He stared intently at the sinister-looking man. Now, with just a slight movement of his mind, the final forbidden spell would fall upon the forbidden spanner. At that point, even if the magical artifact were destroyed, it would attract the heavenly tribulation. And he could certainly use this somewhat accomplished forbidden spanner as a conduit for the heavenly tribulation to strike the man. I have returned the storage bag. I haven't even touched anything. But why are you going back on your word, Senior? Wang Lin stared at the other man, speaking slowly. The sinister-looking young man was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, "The red lightning you just used, was it the extreme realm?" His voice was uncertain. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged, but a great wave of emotion surged within him. He looked at the other man, saying nothing. The sinister-looking young man stared at Wang Lin and said, "It's definitely true. What you just used was the extreme realm." At this moment, he felt incredibly conflicted. Wang Lin had repeatedly terrified him. On this desolate planet, the existence of the heavenly tribulation power was already unbelievable. But this person not only possessed it, but also had a magic treasure that could trigger the heavenly tribulation, and even had reached the extreme realm. The lightning of the extreme realm instantly dispelled his killing intent. The sinister young man took a deep breath, a strange expression in his eyes. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged, his gaze calm. After a long silence, he said, "Senior, if there is nothing else, I will take my leave." Having said that, he carefully retreated. Any action would trigger the heavenly tribulation without hesitation. The sinister young man hesitated slightly, saying, "Your extreme realm, don't you intend to break through the bottleneck?" Wang Lin stopped, looking at him. The sinister young man hesitated again, then sighed, saying, "Never mind. Listen carefully, young man. The extreme realm is an extreme form of power. Breaking through to this level is incredibly difficult, extremely difficult, but it's not impossible." Wang Lin remained standing still, silently observing. The sinister young man's eyes showed admiration. Suddenly, his eyes flashed, and 5-colored lights slowly shot out from them, forming a 5-colored sphere hovering in his palm. Wang Lin was now extremely vigilant, staring intently at the 5-colored sphere. The sinister young man looked down at the sphere, complex thoughts swirling in his mind. He was somewhat silent, and then said dejectedly, "Try checking it with your divine consciousness." Wang Lin pondered for a moment, then swept his divine consciousness over it. His expression immediately became strange. He hesitated, saying, "This is," he saw a trace of the extreme realm within the 5-colored sphere. This discovery shook him to his core. The sinister young man took a deep breath and slowly said, "Did you discover anything?" "This 5-colored sphere, on my home planet, is called the 5-colored extreme realm. It wasn't originally mine, but a good friend gave it to me before he died." Wang Lin took a deep breath, his eyes flickering as he looked at the 5-colored sphere. The sinister young man clenched his right hand, and the 5-colored sphere disappeared. He looked at Wang Lin and said, "The extreme realm is divided into many types. No one knows exactly how many there are. Even if you gathered all the cultivators with the extreme realm in the Cultivation Alliance, there wouldn't be many. So I can't discern your extreme realm attributes. But I know that no matter what type of extreme realm it is, it has its limits. Once you reach that limit, it's very difficult to break through." He paused for a moment, then continued, "I know a method that can help the extreme realm's divine consciousness break through. That's in the cultivation planets. Each planet of a 6th-level cultivation nation, after being granted a title, will have several old leaders of the Cultivation Alliance perform a ritual to the heavens. At that time, the heavenly power will automatically condense and form the national treasure of the 6th level cultivation nation. If any cultivator obtains this treasure, they will certainly have a chance to help them break through to the extreme realm of divine consciousness. Wang Lin's expression turned grim. The national treasure of a 6th level cultivation nation was clearly something he couldn't obtain. After the sinister young man finished speaking, he looked closely at Wang Lin, then patted his storage bag. From inside, he took out a palm-sized black compass. Then he patted the top of it, and the compass immediately grew larger, hovering in midair. Gentle beams of light shone down from the compass. If you can obtain the cultivation star essence later and have the qualifications to leave this abandoned planet, then come to the 5 elements planet to find me. My name is Nada. After speaking, the person flew into the air, slowly disappearing into the compass. Immediately afterward, the compass spun rapidly. Slowly, a flash of lightning appeared, and a pitch-black black hole silently materialized in the air. Inside the black hole was a shimmering expanse of sky, densely packed with stars, incredibly beautiful. The compass moved, flying into the black hole. Then, it quickly shrank and disappeared without a sound. Wang Lin felt fortunate that this person didn't pursue the storage bag. Both the Forbidden Spanner and the Heavenly Tribulation Thread were his last remaining magical treasures. Especially the Heavenly Tribulation Thread, which he wouldn't use unless absolutely necessary. He watched the black hole disappear into the air, feeling a surge of excitement. In his youth, he longed to soar to the heavens. But now, he wanted the ability to travel between planets. Wang Lin took a deep breath and turned to leave. The essence of a 6th level cultivation nation is clearly not something he can obtain right now. Regardless of whether the sinister young man's words are true or false, this is still a clue. If he can obtain it, he wouldn't mind trying. But what he wants to do now is figure out how to reach the God transformation stage. The God transformation stage is a checkpoint for a 3rd level cultivation nation to advance to the 4th level, and the difficulty is immense. It's worth noting that the entire Vermilion Bird Planet has many 3rd level cultivation nations, but there are fewer than 24th level cultivation nations. This number demonstrates the difficulty of advancing to the God transformation stage. To advance to the God transformation stage, the spiritual power and environment of a 3rd level cultivation nation clearly cannot meet the requirements. Wang Lin's goal is to find a 4th level cultivation nation to advance to the God transformation stage. He took out a jade slip map from his storage bag. After observing for a while, he noticed a 4th level cultivation nation of the 5 Sect Alliance, the closest to him. Half a month later, the border of the 5 Sect Alliance appeared before his eyes. At the border, there was a defensive light barrier. This was one of the differences between a 4th level cultivation nation and a 3rd level cultivation nation. This barrier prevented anyone from entering from the outside. Wang Lin walked closer to the barrier, observing for a moment. Then, with a slight movement of his right hand, he unleashed a residual forbidden spell, striking the barrier. Immediately, a hole appeared in the barrier. Wang Lin didn't hesitate and slipped through. After Wang Lin entered the 4th level cultivation kingdom, he didn't fly, but disguised himself as an ordinary person and walked along the streets. Looking at the unfamiliar scenery around him, Wang Lin took a deep breath. Breaking through the nascent soul stage to the transformation God stage was pointless. No cultivation technique was effective. As for elixirs, unless they were of 6th grade or higher, they would be useless. To reach the transformation God stage, one needed to understand the heavenly Tao and comprehend a unique state of mind. This was the only method. Because he understood this, when Wang Lin arrived at the 4th level cultivation kingdom, he didn't consider joining any sect. After all, if he couldn't truly become a key disciple of a sect, it wouldn't greatly contribute to his goal of advancing to the transformation God stage. But becoming a core disciple of the sect is too difficult. Wang Lin didn't want to waste time on this. Based on his understanding of cultivation over the past 400 years, and his experience fighting against nascent soul cultivators, Wang Lin knew that the most important thing to achieve a breakthrough to the nascent soul stage was to understand the heavenly Tao. Wang Lin was killing people, his hands stained with blood, and his heart had absolutely no connection to understanding the heavenly Tao. He had a premonition that if he continued like this, he would have no hope of breaking through to the nascent soul stage in his lifetime. In fact, Wang Lin's current cultivation level wasn't truly at the nascent soul stage. His main body was still stuck in a bottleneck. Only his clone had successfully reached the early nascent soul stage. As he traveled, Wang Lin's body gradually transformed. His main body concealed itself, falling into a deep sleep. Meanwhile, his clone slowly emerged. Wang Lin understood the extreme realm very well. He didn't want to force a breakthrough in the extreme realm, nor did he want to rely on it. In his view, the extreme realm was merely a magical artifact. Currently, the artifact's level wasn't high enough to pose a threat to a nascent soul cultivator. To upgrade the artifact, he needed a rare treasure, such as the cultivation essence of a 6th-level cultivation nation. After decisively abandoning the extreme realm, Wang Lin prepared to embark on the path of cultivation in his clone form. If one day the clone reached the nascent soul stage, it might have a chance to obtain the cultivation essence. At that time, using Nadie's method, the extreme realm would have a chance to break through. Wang Lin took a deep breath, clearing his mind of the extreme realm. He knew that his most important task now was to comprehend the heavenly Tao. His first half of life had been filled with too much killing. That half was completely incomplete. If he truly wanted to feel the heavenly Tao, he had to start over, becoming immortal. If he wanted to achieve the God transformation, he had to first become immortal. Unintentionally, Wang Lin's heart gradually changed. He vaguely understood. However, it was like a flash of lightning in his mind, so fast that Wang Lin couldn't grasp it immediately. He pondered for a moment, then chuckled. The cultivation in his body dissolved like snowflakes in the sunlight. Finally, he looked like an ordinary mortal. A strange light shone in Wang Lin's eyes. He casually plucked a leaf from a tree by the roadside, put it in his mouth, tasted the bitterness, and then slowly walked away into the distance. The territory of the 4th-level cultivation kingdom was vast, several times larger than Zhou Kingdom, so the number of cultivators was enormous. Similarly, the number of ordinary people also reached a colossal figure. As Wang Lin walked along the road, he saw ordinary people carrying luggage on their backs. He, however, had nothing, thus attracting attention. After some thought, Wang Lin broke off branches from trees along the roadside, wove them into a basket, and slung it over his back. Then, he gathered a large pile of leaves and threw them inside. After walking for several hours, he saw many ordinary martial artists riding horses, shouting as they galloped past. These people paid no attention to Wang Lin. Each time a horse passed, it kicked up a cloud of dust. Wang Lin didn't mind brushing off the dust from his clothes and continuing on his way. However, this time he hadn't gone far when suddenly a loud shout came from behind, "Get out of the way!" At the same time, a whirlwind struck from behind. Wang Lin slightly tilted his body and saw a sleek black horse almost rushing past him. Immediately afterward, many more horses came charging forward with a thunderous roar. One of them was about to ram Wang Lin. Just then, the burly man on the horse pulled the reins. A series of neighs rang out. The horse raised its front legs and swerved to the side. After running a few steps forward, the horse stopped. The burly man glared, brandishing his whip as if to strike Wang Lin on the head, and shouted, "Are you blind?" Wang Lin raised his eyebrows. But as the whip came down, a middle-aged man beside him spurred his horse forward, grabbed the whip, and said disapprovingly, "Jiang San, do you want to show off your power?" The burly man snorted softly, retracted his horse whip, glared fiercely at Wang Lin, then pulled the reins and rode away. The middle-aged man didn't even glance at the other man, turning to look at Wang Lin, bowing and saying, "Young man, I frightened you just now. I have important matters to attend to. Please forgive me." Wang Lin shook his head and said, "It's all right." After saying that, he brushed the dirt off his clothes. The middle-aged man's eyes showed surprise. He saw that Wang Lin was just an ordinary person, without any trace of martial arts training. But this person's courage was somewhat extraordinary. The middle-aged man looked at Wang Lin carefully, smiled and said, "My name is Lu Crossing. This road only leads in one direction, to the capital. May I ask what you are going to the capital for?" After saying that, he looked at the basket on Wang Lin's back and said strangely, "Young man, are you a doctor?" Wang Lin didn't explain, but nodded. The middle-aged man smiled, clasped his hands together, and then mounted his horse. He patted the horse's back with his left hand, causing it to neigh, not forward, but backward. Wang Lin turned to look. 10 miles behind, a convoy of horse-drawn carriages was slowly approaching. Half an hour later, the convoy appeared behind Wang Lin. Around each carriage were hundreds of burly men on fine horses. Their eyes gleamed with a sharp light, their temples bulging. They were clearly martial arts masters. Lu Crossing was beside one of the carriages, leaning in to talk to the person inside. The road wasn't wide, so after seeing the carriages, Wang Lin had to stop at the roadside. When the convoy passed Wang Lin, four burly men came and held him outside. Only then did Lu Crossing turn to look at Wang Lin. His eyes suddenly lit up, and he gently pulled the reins, stopping. Waiting for Wang Lin to approach, he clasped his hands together and said, "Young master, do you have any medicine for this poisonous wine stroke?" Wang Lin's expression was calm. He knew the other party thought he was a doctor. With his nature, he wouldn't pay attention to such matters. But his heart stirred slightly. If he wanted to break through to the nascent soul stage, he needed to sense the heavenly Tao. Perhaps this was a good opportunity to enter the mortal world. Thinking this, Wang Lin said, "Is there a patient?" The middle-aged man hesitated slightly, then nodded and said, "There's a maid who's sick." This place is 7 days' journey from the capital. The accompanying doctor has already prescribed medicine, but there's no improvement. Wang Lin looked at the carriage and said, "Let me go up and see the patient." Lu Crossing smiled wryly and said, "Young man, do you have any medicine? If not, then there's no need to see her." Just then, an old man's voice came from inside the carriage. "Lu Crossing, let him come and take a look. Among all the medical practitioners in the world, he might have a method." Lu Crossing hastily obeyed, dismounting from his horse and saying to Wang Lin, "Young master, I'm sorry to trouble you." Wang Lin followed Lu Crossing to the carriage. Just as he was about to climb in, the old man inside coughed. Lu Crossing immediately stepped forward to stop him, apologetically saying, "Young master, just look like this, no need to get in the carriage." Wang Lin raised his eyebrows. He had already sensed 3 people inside the carriage using his divine consciousness. Besides the old man, there were 2 young women. From their attire, it was clear they were master and servant. The one who was ill was not a maid, but the mistress. Under Wang Lin's divine consciousness, the young lady wasn't suffering from a poisonous wind. The clear blue energy in her blood indicated she had been poisoned with some kind of toxin. "Give me your hand," Wang Lin said. The young woman in the carriage hesitated, extending her delicate arm from behind the curtain. Wang Lin grasped her wrist for a moment. After a while, he took a branch from the basket on his back, his spiritual power subtly swirling around it before retracting back into his body. Handing the branch to Lu Crossing, Wang Lin said, "Take this to drink. You'll be better tomorrow." Lu Crossing looked at the branch in his hand strangely. It was clearly just an ordinary branch. He smiled wryly, thinking he had misjudged the person. This man wasn't a doctor at all, clearly just a madman. Otherwise, he wouldn't need someone to give him leaves as medicine. If this were real medicine, he could have picked a whole bunch of leaves from the trees lining the road. He was about to throw the branch down when suddenly the carriage curtain was lifted. An old man with a face full of wrinkles reached out and snatched the branch from Lu Xing's hand. He examined it carefully for a long time, his expression changing, and exclaimed, "A 100-year-old tree leaf." He took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on Wang Lin with disbelief, and hurriedly and respectfully said, "I don't know if it's edible. Is there any taboo?" Wang Lin smiled faintly and said, "Eating it raw is fine." The old man nodded quickly, and after glancing at Lu Crossing, respectfully retreated into the carriage. Lu Crossing looked at Wang Lin with a strange expression, and said with a wry smile, "Young man, you also want to go to the capital. Why don't you come with us?" Wang Lin smiled and said, "I want a horse." Hearing this, Lu Crossing immediately shouted, "Old man son, bring your horse here." A young man in his 20s, with a distressed expression, turned his horse around, grabbed the reins, and rode over. After saying a few words, he turned and left. Wang Lin looked at the horse and found it very beautiful, its eyes seemingly full of life. He reached out and stroked it, and the horse immediately closed its eyes, seemingly very pleased. The scene before him astonished Lu Crossing. This was the first time he had seen a horse with such an expression. Wang Lin placed his left hand on its back and jumped on. Lu Crossing hurriedly followed behind, talking to Wang Lin while glancing at the carriage. Wang Lin rode on the horse's back, his gaze calm as he surveyed the surroundings. A feeling he had never experienced before suddenly arose in his heart. At this moment, the spiritual power in his body automatically circulated. The spiritual power seemed to be stimulated by something external, becoming turbulent. At this moment, any cultivator with great divine abilities present would surely be terrified. Because at this moment, a red aura surrounded Wang Lin's body. The aura was dense but did not dissipate, remaining concentrated around Wang Lin's body for a long time without dissipating. That red mist, needless to say, was invisible to most cultivators, not just humans. It was the murderous aura that Wang Lin had accumulated over the past 400 years, a vengeful spirit forged after killing countless people. As the number of people he killed grew, it transformed into a terrifying aura that struck fear into any cultivator. Once wielded, this aura could subdue anyone without a fight, much like a magical artifact. Even adding a little of it to the crafting of magical artifacts would undoubtedly increase their power. A gentle breeze swept around Wang Lin. He involuntarily took a deep breath, his eyes brightening. He could clearly feel a subtle transformation in the spiritual power within his body. The transformation was incredibly small, yet it contained a miraculous force. At this moment, a small portion of the red killing intent surrounding Wang Lin's body suddenly flew out, transforming into a pink stream of energy that entered Wang Lin's body and merged with his spiritual power. Gradually, as the convoy slowly moved along the road, the spiritual power in all directions increased. Under the atmosphere filled with spiritual power, all the horses neighed continuously. Even the eyes of the martial artists brightened. They didn't know why, but a surge of true energy suddenly rose within them. It circulated inside, making each of them feel extremely comfortable. After a while, the spiritual power in Wang Lin's body slowly returned to normal. The spiritual energy in all directions slowly disappeared. The ordinary martial artists all came to their senses, their eyes somewhat puzzled, and they whispered to each other about the unbelievable feeling they had just experienced. The convoy continued its journey until nightfall. At this point, the convoy formed a circle, taking shelter on the main road. Several women disembarked from the carriages and quickly prepared some food. Occasionally, a few beautiful eyes would glance towards Wang Lin, a charming smile playing on their lips. It was understandable that these women couldn't help but glance at Wang Lin. In their eyes, Wang Lin exuded an indescribable charm. Although his appearance was ordinary, his entire being possessed a carefree air. Wang Lin leaned against a large tree, gazing at the sky. For the past 400 years, his mind had never known a moment of peace. The stars cast a faint light upon the earth, but Wang Lin knew that each star in the sky was actually a celestial body. He had gained this understanding from the memories of the ancient god. In his memory, back then, before Tut could traverse the stars, he often looked up at the sky like this. His calm state of mind caused the surrounding spiritual energy to gradually gather. But at this moment, Wang Lin didn't pay attention to the spiritual energy because this was the first time he could feel the red aura surrounding his body. That red aura dissipated slightly after his emotions calmed down. Wang Lin thought for a moment and realized that if his state of mind remained this calm, the red aura surrounding his body would surely disappear completely next year. He had sensed this red aura before, but this was the first time he had actually seen it with his own eyes. He knew it was created by his killings over the past 400 years. Although if this aura dissipated, it might be of some help to a nascent soul cultivator, Wang Lin felt a little regretful. He pondered for a while, and suddenly an idea struck him. The red mist surrounding his body suddenly began to fluctuate, slowly condensing. But after it had condensed to about 1/10, no matter what he did, he couldn't condense any more. Wang Lin took a deep breath, intending to continue his attack, when his expression suddenly changed. He looked up at the group of women and saw a young woman in her 20s carrying a piece of smoked meat and a wine gourd walking towards him. A faint aroma wafted to his nose. In an instant, the girl was in front of him. After setting the meat and wine aside, she looked at Wang Lin curiously, then smiled and said, "Thank you." She was indeed the maid who had been in the carriage with the young lady earlier that day. Wang Lin smiled, took the wine gourd, examined it with his divine sense, and then took a sip. A burning, stinging sensation rose from Wang Lin's stomach. Over the past 400 years, Wang Lin had only drunk alcohol a few times. He remembered clearly that back then, before he cultivated immortality, only his father's fourth uncle could drink it. Each time, Wang Lin would secretly take a sip or two. Afterwards, his small face would flush, and he would giggle at his father and fourth uncle. With a hint of sadness in his heart, Wang Lin took another sip. The girl opened her small mouth, about to say something, when at that moment, a voice called out to her from a distance. The girl answered, then glanced at Wang Lin with her large, pretty eyes before turning and walking away. With Wang Lin's cultivation level having reached the grain absorption realm, the food of ordinary people held no appeal for him. Therefore, the smoked meat remained untouched. Only the wine captivated his mood, and it was gone in no time. At night, the guards lit a bonfire and sat chatting. Their laughter and conversation echoed in his ears, making Wang Lin smile. Some of the men, after drinking a little wine, became bolder and went to find some girls to talk to. This is talking, not the other kind of intimate conversation. Witnessing everyone's activities, Wang Lin suddenly remembered Li Muan. At this moment, Lu Crossing came to Wang Lin with two wine gourds. After giving him one, he sat down and said with a smile, "Little brother, your medicinal herbs are truly miraculous. My young mistress is much better now. Come, I'll toast you." As he spoke, he tilted the gourd and poured a cup. But at that moment, Wang Lin didn't need a cup. He raised the gourd and took a big gulp. Seeing this, Lu Crossing was startled, then laughed heartily, put down his cup, and did the same as Wang Lin, taking a big gulp. "Earlier you said the maid was sick. Why the change to young lady now?" Wang Lin chuckled, looking at the man in front of him. Lu Crossing blushed, embarrassed, patted his thigh, and said, "Brother, this is my fault. Never mind. When we get to the capital, if you encounter any trouble, come find me at the shops in Tianan. As long as it's something I, Lu, can handle, there's nothing to worry about." Wang Lin smiled, saying nothing. He slowly savored his wine. Lu Crossing looked at the empty wine flask on the ground, then at the one in Wang Lin's hand, which also had only a little left, and laughed. "Brother, you have a good tolerance for alcohol. Sitting around all night is boring. Will you come with me to meet some of the brothers and chat?" Wang Lin subconsciously wanted to refuse, but after thinking it over, he smiled and nodded. After accompanying Lu Crossing to the campfire, they saw several men sitting around, chatting about some interesting things they had encountered. Lu Crossing approached, kicked one of them, and laughed, scolding, "Wang Lao Wu, I've heard you talk about that little girl countless times already. All right, when we get back, I'll go check if you've been exaggerating." The man turned and laughed, saying, "All right. You work quickly anyway. I can come after you're finished." With that, the men around burst into laughter. Lu Crossing chuckled a few more times and sat down. Wang Lin casually sat down, looking at the people before him with a sense of melancholy. These people, though their lives were short, he could kill them all with a single breath, had a comfortable life that he couldn't. Throughout the night, Wang Lin drank quite a bit of wine. Although he didn't say much, sitting with everyone gradually made him happier. Later, some bolder girls joined them. Among them was the girl who had brought food and drink for Wang Lin. However, she sat beside Wang Lin, gazing intently at him. Under the flickering firelight, it was impossible to tell what she was thinking. It wasn't until nearly dawn that the group finally lay down to sleep. The girls, meanwhile, retreated into the carriages. Except for a few guards, the entire convoy was completely silent. Although the bonfire occasionally crackled, the sounds didn't disturb anyone's sleep. On the contrary, they seemed to have a magical effect, making everyone's sleep even sweeter. Wang Lin stood up and sat down beside a large tree not far away. His heart was completely calm. The moment just now had made him forget he was a cultivator, like an ordinary person. After sitting down, he suddenly felt a mixture of fear and joy. His cultivation had, without him realizing it, broken through the early nascent soul stage and reached the middle stage. Although he had previously reached the peak and could break through at any time, he didn't expect it to happen so quickly. However, the red mist surrounding his body dissipated a little more. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He felt that if that red color ever disappeared, he would regret it. Therefore, he concentrated his mind and began to condense. The time Wang Lin spent condensing the red energy slowly passed. At night, apart from the buzzing of mosquitoes, there was only the snoring of some sleeping men. Gradually, the first rays of sunlight began to appear on the horizon. Wang Lin opened his eyes, turned his face to the east, and took a deep breath. Instantly, two streams of purple energy invisible to ordinary people were inhaled through his nose. After circulating through his body, they were exhaled. After a few such cycles, Wang Lin could clearly feel his entire body as if it could gently float into the air. This feeling he had never experienced in the past 400 years. Obviously, it could only be felt when one's state of mind was at a certain level of tranquility. Overnight, the red aura surrounding Wang Lin's body had diminished by 1/10. Wang Lin wasn't impatient. He knew that condensing the entire red aura wasn't something that could be done in a short time. It could be said that this process was time-consuming and somewhat tedious. Early in the morning, everyone in the caravan woke up. After washing their faces, the physician accompanying the caravan dismounted from the horse-drawn carriage. After taking a deep breath, he stood in an open space and began to stretch his limbs. Slowly, he performed a series of movements. Wang Lin glanced over, feeling somewhat surprised. The movements this man performed, though lacking offensive power, were certainly effective in strengthening the body. After a moment, the old man withdrew his hand and let out a long sigh. Then, after a slight hesitation, he walked towards Wang Lin. Approaching, the old man smiled and said, "Young man, did you rest well last night?" Wang Lin nodded but didn't speak. The old man hesitated for a moment before asking again, "Young man, where did you find that 100-year-old leaf?" His eyes held a pleading look. "I picked it up by the roadside," Wang Lin replied. The old man froze, hesitating for a moment before giving a wry smile. "Young man, you're so lucky." After exchanging a few more words with Wang Lin, no matter how much he hinted, he couldn't get any information from him. The old man sighed inwardly and turned to leave. To be honest, Wang Lin was even older than the old man's own ancestor. Therefore, the old man's veiled remarks might have some effect on young people who had just arrived, but they had no effect on Wang Lin whatsoever. Following the caravan, Wang Lin gradually adjusted his mood and blended in with everyone. Several days passed in a flash. During those days, the little maid often came to talk to Wang Lin. Each time, her small face would blush, and he couldn't tell what she was thinking. Looking at the little maid's eyes, Wang Lin smiled wryly. He had seen that look in Li Muwen's eyes before, so he understood. However, Wang Lin questioned himself, realizing that he was older than her ancestor. Therefore, he always felt a strange sensation in his heart. Until today, the capital city appeared before them. The capital city of a fourth-level cultivation nation, in the eyes of ordinary people, was extremely magnificent. Yet, in Wang Lin's eyes, it was extremely ordinary without anything special about it. If it weren't for the swirling vortex of spiritual energy above, Wang Lin wouldn't have paid any attention. His divine consciousness swept across, and the entire city instantly appeared in his mind. There were 9 streams of spiritual energy throughout the city. Their origin wasn't from cultivators, but from 9 black stone pillars. The strength of the emitted spiritual power varied according to the size of the pillars. Of these, except for one gigantic pillar, the other 8 were only about 10 people's embrace wide. But the remaining pillar was so large that it would take 100 people to encircle it. People were seated within the vicinity of all 9 pillars. Furthermore, each pillar was covered by a layer of formations, preventing divine consciousness from probing. However, these formations were merely for show to Wang Lin. He glanced around and saw that all the people inside were cultivators. The highest cultivation level was late-stage core formation, and the lowest was late-stage foundation establishment. Wang Lin felt intrigued by the strange architecture before him. After the convoy entered the city, Lu Crossing noticed Wang Lin staring at the 9 pillars and whispered, "Brother Wang, don't stare like that. It will be very troublesome if someone discovers you." Wang Lin stroked his horse's mane and asked suspiciously, "Brother Lu, what are these black pillars?" Lu Xing's eyes showed a hint of admiration as he whispered, "Those are immortal trees. This is our capital, protected by immortals. Recently, an immortal decree fell. The emperor summoned all the craftsmen in the country to create these 9 immortal trees according to the decree's requirements." Immortal trees. Wang Lin's expression was somewhat strange. Inside the immortal trees is where the immortals rest. When my father was young, he personally witnessed an immortal flying out from within, Lu Crossing said with a hint of pride, as if he himself had seen it. If he knew that Wang Lin, who was still with him, was 100,000 times stronger than the person his father had seen, what would he feel? He knew that even the cultivators his father had met would respectfully address Wang Lin as senior. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze, smiled, and said nothing. After entering the city, Wang Lin bid farewell to Lu Crossing and his group. Although Lu Crossing hadn't known Wang Lin for long, he felt a strong sense of familiarity with him. He assured Wang Lin that if he encountered any trouble, he should come to him. Having shared drinks with him over the past few days, he was completely convinced of Wang Lin's drinking prowess. Therefore, Lu Crossing repeatedly told him to come to him if anyone tried to bully him. Finally, the physician disembarked from the carriage. Walking beside the old man was a young woman wearing a white veil. Beside her was a pretty little maid. Seeing Wang Lin about to leave, the maid's eyes showed a hint of sadness. The doctor stepped forward and spoke a few words to Wang Lin. Then the veiled woman bowed low to Wang Lin and turned to get into the carriage. As for the little maid, after speaking a few words with the woman, she took a silk money pouch and approached Wang Lin. She handed the pouch to Wang Lin and said softly, "Miss, let me thank you. There are 10 taels of gold in here for you to use." Wang Lin did not refuse. This was a common item for transactions in the human world. Except for 400 years ago when he had held one, this was the first time he had seen one again. Wang Lin clasped his hands in gratitude, turned, and left. Only when he had gone quite far did the maid sigh and get into the carriage. The convoy continued across the bridge into the South City. Holding 10 taels of gold in his hand, Wang Lin strolled leisurely through the capital. Indeed, the capital was different. The streets were bustling with people, and at every intersection, countless shops sold all kinds of goods. After a while, a glint of light flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. After wandering around, he still couldn't see a single cultivator below the 12th or 13th stage of the Cha condensation realm. Wang Lin had almost never encountered such a phenomenon in other countries. After thinking for a moment, Wang Lin glanced towards the 9 black pillars, secretly guessing that the answer lay there. Even after noon, Wang Lin continued his leisurely walk. Some of the shops in the capital didn't serve ordinary people, but rather cultivators. However, these shops were protected by a layer of restrictions preventing ordinary people from entering. The people of the capital were clearly aware of this, so almost no one ventured into such places. Wang Lin walked leisurely. After entering a shop to look around and then leaving, he suddenly heard a commotion not far away. A disheveled man was being punched in the chest by a burly man. The old man let out a pitiful cry, his voice mournful. Simultaneously, fresh blood spurted from his mouth in a rhythmic manner. Each time the burly man landed a punch, the old man spat out a mouthful of blood. After a few punches, the burly man stood up and cursed, "Old man, get away from my shop. If I see you again, I'll beat you again. I can't believe you're so vile at your age." After cursing, the burly man spat. Standing beside Wang Lin was a middle-aged man. He shook his head and sighed, saying, "Oh, this old man gets beaten almost every day. Is it worth deliberately watching women change clothes and getting beaten like that?" Wang Lin was stunned by what he heard. He glanced at the old man and turned to leave. But he hadn't gone many steps when he suddenly turned back. He saw the old man wiping the fresh blood from his mouth and walking towards him with a smug expression. Wang Lin subtly moved aside, his eyes gradually turning cold. The old man walked past Wang Lin, then suddenly turned around. His eyes showed a hint of surprise as he looked at Wang Lin and said, "Little brother, I see you have a full heavenly peak with purple light entering your body. You're certainly not an ordinary person, are you?" Wang Lin raised his eyebrows. With his divine sense, a single glance was enough to tell that this old man was just an ordinary person, without any cultivation. He even had many wounds on his body, obviously having been beaten frequently. Wang Lin had no interest in the old man and turned to leave. If the old man continued to follow, Wang Lin wouldn't mind seeing him off for a little longer. The old man looked at Wang Lin with a hint of regret, shaking his head and saying, "Without someone to guide me, I'm afraid I'll never be able to reach the God transformation realm in this lifetime." Wang Lin suddenly stopped. His aura slowly dissipated. He slowly turned around, staring intently at the old man, coldly saying, "Who are you?" The old man remained calm in the face of Wang Lin's aura. With his hands clasped behind his back, he looked up at the sky and said, "You don't need to know who I am. but I do know how you can reach the God transformation realm. Wang Lin blinked. This old man was just a human being, yet how could he know his cultivation level just by looking at him? There's only one explanation for this. The person's cultivation has surpassed the nascent soul stage, which is why Wang Lin couldn't recognize them. How can I reach the nascent soul stage? Wang Lin asked, raising his eyebrows. The old man glanced at Wang Lin and said, "This old man is hungry, so I can't think of anything. I know a tavern nearby. Shall we go there to eat and talk?" After saying that, he licked his lips, his stomach rumbling. The Fushan Tavern was one of the most luxurious taverns in the capital. The old man lifted his head, puffed out his chest, and stepped inside. The main dining hall was clearly not to his liking. After entering, he went straight to a private room. The owner and waiter stood aside, stunned by the old man's appearance. Then they glanced at Wang Lin following behind him and went to greet him. Wang Lin frowned. Ultimately, he felt something was amiss. Clearly, the old man knew the tavern very well, which was why he ordered dishes Wang Lin had never heard of. After the table was piled high with food, the old man, as if he hadn't eaten in days, immediately devoured it like a glutton. Wang Lin sat there silently, drinking wine. His gaze towards the old man grew colder and colder. "Speak, I'm all ears." "Wait a moment while the old man eats," Wang Lin said coldly. The old man picked up a leg and continued gnawing on it. His mouth was covered in grease as he said, "Things will work out. Just wait until I finish this." The old man continued gnawing, finishing the leg in an instant. After feeling full, he rubbed his hands together and said, "The God transformation stage. If you want to understand the heavenly Tao, I think you can comprehend it. To reach the God transformation stage, you need to generate a state of mind. Do you understand this state of mind?" Young man, just try to comprehend it a little. When you feel this state of mind, the distance to God transformation will no longer be far. I'll go to the toilet for a bit and then come back to talk to you further. The old man suddenly touched his stomach and hurriedly stood up. As if afraid Wang Lin wouldn't let him out, he let out a loud groan as he stood up. Instantly, a foul stench filled the room. Then, the old man left in embarrassment. Wang Lin waved his hand, and a gust of wind suddenly appeared, dispelling the pungent stench in the room. Meanwhile, his divine consciousness was still closely following the old man. The old man's series of expressions showed complete understanding. His words about the God transformation stage proved this. Such things are basically impossible for ordinary people to know. While thinking, a cold glint flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. He immediately jumped to his feet. His divine sense had seen the old man leave the back door of the inn. Then, the old man ran straight into the storm. Wang Lin's body flashed, disappearing from the inn. When he reappeared, he was standing outside, his eyes cold as ice, slowly following the old man. He saw that the old man, who had apparently changed his clothes, was picking his teeth with a toothpick. He pulled a piece of meat from between his teeth, examined it, and then put it back in his mouth. As he walked along, he suddenly stopped, looking towards a middle-aged man in a purple robe a short distance away. His eyes lit up, and he quickly smiled and walked towards him. The middle-aged man frowned, glanced at the old man, and then ignored him. At this moment, the old man suddenly spoke. "Little brother, I see you have a full face, and purple light has entered your body. You are certainly not an ordinary person." The middle-aged man was stunned, stopped, and glanced at the old man. The old man's eyes showed regret as he shook his head and said, "What a pity. Without someone to guide me, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to form a golden core in this lifetime." The middle-aged man blinked and said in a low voice, "Who are you?" The old man shook his head and said, "Who I am doesn't matter. Let's find a place to relax and talk first, shall we?" Wang Lin's expression was extremely gloomy. The middle-aged man was also a cultivator, but his cultivation had only reached the foundation establishment stage. Obviously, he didn't know where this old man learned those kinds of words to trick cultivators. But the fact that he was still alive meant that this matter was certainly not simple. Unless Wang Lin was the first person he had deceived, the old man certainly couldn't have survived until now. As a cultivator, being mocked by an ordinary person was something no one could forgive. Strangely enough, the old man could discern a cultivator's cultivation level with just a glance. If it was the foundation establishment stage, he would talk about forming a golden core. If it was the golden core stage, he would talk about forming a nascent soul. And since Wang Lin was in the nascent soul stage, he would talk about the transformation god stage. It was already past noon, and Wang Lin watched the old man intently. He wanted to see what secret the old man held. In the time it took to spend the entire afternoon, including Wang Lin, the old man had deceived 4 people. All of them were led to meals, except for one who went to a brothel. But among the other 3, even the man in purple showed no intention of causing the old man any trouble. It was as if the old man's words possessed some kind of magic. The more Wang Lin watched, the more astonished he became. The old man had a very insightful understanding of cultivation breakthroughs. Often, he would just casually say a few words and the cultivator's obstacles would disappear. Therefore, no one considered him a swindler. On the contrary, it felt like encountering a senior expert. Wang Lin thought for a moment, then withdrew his divine sense, no longer observing. This person was extremely mysterious. Wang Lin had a feeling that this old man possessed something extraordinary. After Wang Lin withdrew his divine sense, the old man, who was in a brothel embracing a beautiful woman, suddenly smiled and glanced at Wang Lin. Then he muttered, "Nascent soul stage." Precisely mid-nascent soul stage, should I help him a little? While he was thinking, the woman in his arms suddenly spoke in a coquettish voice. Instantly, the old man dismissed Wang Lin from his mind and bowed his head. After no longer observing the old man, Wang Lin thought for a while and then appeared in a secluded place in the West City. He took out 8 taels of gold and bought a small shop. After tidying up, he went inside the shop. If he wanted to achieve the God transformation stage, he had to descend to the mortal world to experience life and understand the heavenly Tao. This was the method Wang Lin thought of to break through to the nascent soul stage. After calmly glancing around the shop, Wang Lin sat cross-legged, quietly observing the human world. At this moment, Wang Lin was immersing himself in the bustling world of the capital city, silently observing the heavenly Tao and the cycle of reincarnation, aiming to break through the nascent soul stage and enter the God transformation stage. He had meticulously prepared for everything. The shop Wang Lin rented wasn't on the main street. It was relatively secluded and difficult to find, but Wang Lin didn't mind. After a night of meditation, the red aura surrounding his body had been further refined. Early in the morning, Wang Lin opened the shop. He acted like a shopkeeper, arranging everything. Then he pondered for a moment. A flash of light, and Wang Lin disappeared. When he returned, his storage bag contained quite a few large trees that he had uprooted. After stripping off the bark, he cut them into square blocks of wood. Wang Lin began to recall how his father had taught him wood carving when he was a child. All the memories gradually surfaced in his mind. Wang Lin thought for a while, then reached out with his left hand and grasped a square block of wood. With a flick of his right hand, the block of wood instantly split into more than a dozen pieces. A carving knife appeared in Wang Lin's right hand, seemingly out of nowhere. This knife was identical to his father's. Slowly, Wang Lin began carving the images from the past for 100 years. With each stroke of the carving knife, he returned to his childhood, living in the village. At this moment, the spiritual power in Wang Lin's body suddenly surged. With each stroke, the spiritual power gradually merged into the wooden statue, becoming deeper and deeper. Time passed quickly. In an instant, night fell again. Wang Lin suddenly regained his senses. He looked down at the piece of wood in his hand. At this moment, the piece of wood had transformed into a wooden statue. The statue depicted a middle-aged man smiling kindly. The man wore coarse cloth clothes, his arms strong and muscular. The wooden statue looked somewhat crude, but it seemed to possess some kind of spirituality. The waves of spiritual power emanating from the statue astonished Wang Lin. Looking at the wooden statue, Wang Lin felt pain again. He gently stroked the statue with his right hand, murmuring, "Father, your child misses you. I miss you very much." After thinking for a moment, Wang Lin set the statue aside and picked up another piece of wood. He was completely absorbed in each stroke of the carving. The sky gradually brightened. A day passed, but for Wang Lin, it was nothing. Back then, when he was being hunted, he often had to flee for days and nights. When the sun had risen, the wooden statue in Wang Lin's hand had taken shape. This time it was the statue of a middle-aged woman. Her face showed a benevolent expression. Her eyes gazed into the distance, as if waiting for her child to return. Setting the two statues down, Wang Lin took a deep breath and picked up another piece of wood to continue carving. Another day slowly passed. Wang Lin continued carving without stopping. Only when he was too tired did he sit down for a while. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Compared to a month ago, the goods in Wang Lin's shop had increased significantly. The shop's walls were lined with numerous display cabinets. Inside the cabinets were a series of vividly carved wooden statues. These statues depicted men, women, old, and young people. The figures portrayed in these carvings were all people from Wang Lin's former village. At this moment, Wang Lin was remembering them through carving. For the past month, Wang Lin's shop hadn't had a single customer. But Wang Lin didn't mind. He was completely absorbed in carving, even pausing his cultivation. Today, Wang Lin held in his hand a statue that was only half finished. For some reason, the piece of wood emitted a primordial energy capable of carving anything. If a cultivator from the cultivation demon sea saw it, they would surely recognize it as a dragon. This dragon was the first spirit beast Wang Lin encountered while living with Li Muan in the cultivation demon sea. While he was carving, a wind chime suddenly rang. The shop door opened. A young man poked his head out, carefully observing. When the young man saw Wang Lin, he was startled. But he was quickly captivated by the countless carved wooden statues around him. He exclaimed in surprise, "Uncle, did you carve all these?" "They're so beautiful. Can I have one?" Wang Lin smiled and put down the unfinished dragon statue he was carving. He casually picked up a statue. That statue was of a relative of Wang Lin, Wang Hao. The young man before him bore some resemblance to Wang Lin. After taking the statue, the young man cheered, carefully holding it. He called out to Wang Lin, "Uncle, I'm at the shop across the street. See you later." After saying that, he quickly ran out of the shop, shouting, "Mother, look at this. This is from my uncle." Wang Lin stood up and went to the door. He saw a man and a woman coming out of a shop opposite. They looked at the young man affectionately. After the woman took the sculpture, her eyes lit up. She looked up at Wang Lin. After hesitating for a moment, she held the sculpture closer and said, "The child doesn't know anything. Young man, how much is this?" Wang Lin shook his head and said, "Give it to him." "It's just a piece of wood." The young man's father hesitated for a moment, then glanced at Wang Lin and smiled, saying, "You're new here, aren't you? I've never seen you before." Wang Lin smiled and nodded. The young man's father laughed loudly and said, "Young man, if you don't mind, come and have some food. I have fruit wine here. It's much better than the wine in the tavern." A strange feeling suddenly arose in Wang Lin's heart. He had never experienced such a feeling in over 400 years. After a moment of hesitation, Wang Lin nodded. The young man's mother was a kind person. Although young, her temperament was gentle. Looking at them, one could see a happy family. The children were well behaved, and the couple was harmonious. A table was set in the shop with some food on it. Although Wang Lin had already mastered the art of abstaining from food, he still picked up his chopsticks and ate a few dishes. Drinking the fruit wine that the owner proudly boasted about and eating a few bites of everyday food, Wang Lin felt even more at peace than when he was with the caravan. The spiritual energy in his body flowed rapidly. This wine was truly excellent. It tasted incredibly good. From that day on, Wang Lin's life gained another important element, the fruit wine. Almost every day, the young man came to watch him sculpt. Each time he came, he brought a flask of wine. In Wang Lin's shop, there were countless sculptures. Most of them were animal sculptures. Over the past 400 years, he had sculpted almost every animal he encountered. However, he couldn't recreate the form of top-grade spirit beasts or wild beasts, no matter how hard he tried. Each sculpture contained an immense surge of spiritual power. This was imperceptible to ordinary people, but cultivators would surely be terrified. The power of this spiritual energy was almost on par with some low-grade magical artifacts. In fact, on some sculptures, the spiritual power could even rival that of mid-level magical artifacts. All the sculptures here were made from rotten wood, meaning low quality wood, to create magical artifacts. Living like a clear cup of water, calmly and peacefully facing everything, Wang Lin understood this life without bloodshed, feeling as if his spirit had been cleansed. At this moment, he forgot his identity as a cultivator, forgot 400 years of killing, and truly immersed himself in the world of mortals, feeling the joys and sorrows of ordinary people. Every morning, Wang Lin would wake up early to open his shop. Then he would calmly sit in the shop, holding a piece of wood and carving statues. His shop was filled with many works. The surrounding shops gradually learned that the shop had changed ownership. Seeing Wang Lin, a young man who was quiet but exuded a free-spirited air, they all felt a great fondness for him. As time passed, Wang Lin's shop gradually attracted customers. Although these people couldn't perceive the spiritual energy emanating from the wooden statues, they could appreciate the exquisite craftsmanship of Wang Lin's work. Gradually, Wang Lin's shop gained some reputation in the area. A year passed in the blink of an eye, and during this time, the mysterious old man hadn't appeared again. Wang Lin occasionally thought about him, but gradually stopped paying attention. He completely immersed himself in carving wooden statues, rediscovering a long-lost pleasure. The most prominent items displayed in Wang Lin's shop were a collection of lifelike wooden statues of demonic beasts. Most ordinary people had never seen these statues before. Indeed, not to mention them, even cultivators who came here would find it difficult to recognize them all. After all, this place was too far from the cultivation demon sea. The world was vast, and the variety of demonic beasts was countless, making it impossible for anyone to identify them all. At this moment, Wang Lin held a piece of wood in his hand. This square piece of wood, with each stroke of Wang Lin's carving, gradually formed the crude shape of a turtle-like demon beast. Looking at the wooden statue in his hand, Wang Lin put down his carving knife and picked up the blue-glazed porcelain wine flask beside him. Just as he was about to drink, ironically, the wine in the flask was gone. Usually, at this time, Daniel would come to see him carving the wooden statue. Each time, Daniel would bring a flask of fruit wine. Sure enough, not long after, the large-bodied Daniel pushed open the door and entered. This Daniel was a teenager of only 12 years old, but his physique was very tall and strong. His body had become considerably more muscular than a year ago. Entering the back of the shop, Daniel grumbled, walked over and sat next to Wang Lin, saying, "Uncle Wang, that day you came to my house, my father said he always wanted me to learn his blacksmithing trade, but I didn't want to. If I were to learn, I'd have to learn your wood carving trade." After saying this, he placed the fruit wine flask he was holding next to Wang Lin, narrowing his tiny eyes and staring intently at the unfinished wooden statue in Wang Lin's hand. Wang Lin laughed heartily, picked up the flask, and took a large gulp. This fruit wine had a sweet and slightly spicy flavor, and after drinking it, a burning sensation rose in his stomach. After a year, this wine had become Wang Lin's daily necessity. "Uncle Wang, what kind of animal are you carving?" "It looks like a turtle to me," Daniel said, gazing at the wooden statue with fascination. Wang Lin patted Daniel's head and smiled. "This isn't a turtle. It's a creature called a giant clam. Its shape isn't much different from a turtle, but in reality, they are incredibly large." Daniel nodded, half understanding, half not. After a year, Wang Lin had seen countless animals in his shop, none of which he had ever seen before. Wang Lin took a carving knife and began carving a wooden statue. This creature looked like a turtle, but in reality, it was a relatively rare mid-grade spirit beast in the cultivation demon sea. When they were enraged, ordinary cultivators were powerless to resist. However, Wang Lin had killed many of these low-grade spirit beasts, devouring quite a few of their inner cores. Therefore, he knew the shape of this beast by heart, each stroke of the knife flowing continuously without a moment's pause. After half an hour, Wang Lin deepened the carving knife slightly into the beast's eyes, and immediately the wooden statue came to life, its appearance incredibly ferocious. The beast raised its head to the sky, its eyes filled with unwillingness mixed with fear, its mouth wide open as if emitting silent roars. An aura imperceptible to ordinary mortals emanated from the wooden statue. However, this stream of energy had only spread about 3 inches when Wang Lin pointed his right hand, and the energy immediately faded. Wang Lin took a deep breath and placed the wooden statue haphazardly on a stand. Here, after a year, Wang Lin discovered that at most he could only create statues of mid-grade spirit beasts. He couldn't carve high-grade spirit beast statues at all. Every time he tried to carve a high-grade spirit beast, he would lose control when only a few final strokes remained, causing the statue to shatter. Wang Lin knew the main reason was his own lack of skill. After all, a high-grade spirit beast was equivalent to a nascent soul cultivator. Dan Yu's eyes showed immense fascination. For the past year, he had watched Wang Lin carve every day, gradually becoming mesmerized without realizing it. Over the past year, he had secretly tried carving with a knife but couldn't carve a statue to his liking. Seeing Wang Lin effortlessly carve a figure, he couldn't help but ask him. Wang Lin remained silent for a moment, then looked up at the young man, thought for a while, and said, "Carving wooden statues requires enlightenment. If you want to learn, you'll have to watch me carve continuously for 60 years. Only after 60 years will you be able to create something similar." Dan Yu stuck out his tongue and said, "60 years, but I saw that carpenter named Chu in the south of the city, who's only a little over 40, already carves beautiful wooden statues." Wang Lin took another sip of wine from his flask and said, "I'm not like him." Dan Yu's eyes showed confusion. Obviously, he didn't understand the hidden meaning in those words. Just then, a sudden commotion came from outside. Dan Yu hurriedly got up and ran outside to investigate. Not long after, he ran back in, surprised and delighted, saying, "Uncle Wang, the eldest son of the Su family's shop, has returned. Following him are more than 10 horse-drawn carriages and quite a few people. It looks very impressive." After saying this, he ran out again. Wang Lin paid no attention, picked up a piece of wood, and recalled an image deeply etched in his mind, a huge beast from the ancient land of the gods. After a moment of hesitation, Wang Lin took up his carving knife and began carving on the wood. Time slowly passed. A few hours later, someone pushed open the shop door. Dan Yu excitedly ran in, followed by a burly young man. The young man entered the shop, looked at the wooden statues displayed all around, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Dan Yu quickly went to Wang Lin's side, winked, and whispered, "Don't overcharge." After saying that, he quickly turned around and loudly continued, "Young Master Su, take a look. I told you that the wooden sculptures in this shop are no less impressive than those of the Chu family's carpenter. How about it? Buy a few." Wang Lin chuckled. This Dan Yu must have noticed that Wang Lin's shop hadn't had many customers in the past year. So when he encountered a wealthy customer, he immediately brought them to Wang Lin's shop first. The young man's surname Su looked around, his eyes brightening. And like Dan Yu, he was a seasoned man, currently one of the trusted attendants of the Southern King's heir. With a single glance, he recognized that the quality of these wooden sculptures was far superior to those of the famous carpenters in the capital. Although the Chu family's wooden sculptures were lifelike, they always lacked something. He paused for a moment, suddenly understanding that the Chu family's sculptures were lacking in one aspect compared to the ones before him, the aspect of life. One side is vividly lifelike, the other looks as if it's alive. Just one word difference, but the difference was immense. The young man's surname Zu's eyes lit up as he stepped forward and picked up a wooden statue. This dragon statue had been carved by Wang Lin exactly 1 year ago. The dragon's head and body were facing upwards, each scale clearly visible, further filling the young man's surname Su with awe. The moment he touched the statue, he felt as if the creature were alive. He panicked and let go, the wooden statue falling from his hand. Dan Yu had already noticed the other's expression. He knew that holding these statues would evoke a strange feeling. Therefore, he usually only dared to look at them, not touch them. With a clatter, the wooden statue fell to the ground. Fortunately, it was made of wood, so a few bumps didn't cause any damage. The young man surnamed Su blushed and hastily asked, "Master Wang, what kind of animal is this statue?" "It looks a bit like a snake," said Dan Yu, puffing out his chest. "This is a dragon. Do you know what a dragon is?" "This is a top-tier immortal." "A dragon," the young man's surname Su muttered, trying to remember, then asked, "How much does this dragon statue cost?" Wang Lin chuckled casually, saying, 10 taels of gold." Upon hearing this, Dan Yu sighed inwardly, thinking, "This time I'm finished again." Over the past year, he had brought many people to this shop, but as soon as Wang Lin stated the price, everyone shook their heads and left. He never imagined that the young man's surname Su would merely raise an eyebrow, take out 10 taels of gold, place it on the table, tuck the wooden statue into the back of his coat, and quickly leave. Dan Yu stared blankly at the 10 taels of gold, his eyes shining brightly, muttering to himself, "Unbelievable. A wooden statue can sell for 10 taels of gold? My father, who forges iron, only earns 1 tael of gold a month. This is truly rare. After telling himself this, he made a firm resolution. No matter how long it takes, he must learn this craft. With this skill in hand, Daniel would never have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of his life. At this moment, he didn't think about what would happen 60 years later. Although crafting wooden statues would ensure he wouldn't have to worry about food and clothing, 60 years from now the young man surnamed Su put the wooden statue into a bag and left the shop, hurrying home to bid farewell to his parents. He didn't even touch the dinner his parents had prepared, hastily leading his men into the carriage and speeding towards the Southeast King's mansion. Wang Lin picked up the gold on the table, casually tossing it into a small tray beside him without even glancing at it. In this shop, besides the statues of his parents and relatives, Wang Lin didn't care about anything else. He only wanted his mind to be calm so he could comprehend the heavenly Tao. He believed that if he could carve a person or a demonic beast with a nascent soul cultivation level, his cultivation would surely break through. Daniel's face showed a hint of panic as he left the shop, muttering to himself as he went, though it was unclear what he was saying. Wang Lin took a sip of fruit wine and continued his engrossing carving. A few wood chips fell along the carving line, and the piece of wood in his hand gradually took shape, generating a boundless aura. However, this aura was completely confined within the wooden statue, unable to diffuse outwards. With each stroke of the carving knife, this aura was divided, gradually forming the initial shape of a dragon. But now, the carving knife in Wang Lin's hand hesitated. He pondered for a long time, sighed softly, and with a flick of his right hand, the carving knife disappeared. He casually tossed the half-carved wooden statue aside, and it fell into a large barrel. This barrel contained many other half-carved wooden statues. If you look closely at these wooden statues, you can see both human and animal figures. Meng Dazi, Gudi, Liu Mojun, high-grade figures, spirit beasts, even wild beasts. Although these wooden statues are different, they all have one thing in common. They are all at least at the god transformation stage. Over the past year, Wang Lin has tried many times, but he has consistently been unable to carve figures and beasts with god transformation stage cultivation. If he forced it, the result would only be one. The wooden statues would turn to dust. He fell silent for a moment, closing his eyes. Immediately, a layer of pink mist, about the size of a hand, appeared around his body. The pink killing intent had been shrinking faster and faster these past few days, obviously being compressed by Wang Lin to this extent. With this progress, Wang Lin was somewhat satisfied. Over the past year, he had never tried to force it. But as soon as he had this thought, he naturally succeeded. Wang Lin believed that gradually he would be able to compress all of this killing intent. Although suppressing killing intent has no connection to enhancing one's abilities or understanding the heavenly Tao, Wang Lin always felt that if this pink killing intent were to dissipate one day, he would definitely regret it. Only cultivators who reach a certain level of cultivation can generate such an aura. This made Wang Lin, without hesitation, begin to cultivate and compress his killing intent. At this moment, outside the shop, Danyu's father called out loudly, "Brother Wang, your sister-in-law has made some delicious dishes today. Let's go have a few drinks." Wang Lin opened his eyes, a profound light flashing in them. The radiance gradually faded, finally disappearing completely. Now Wang Lin had become immortal again. He carried the wine flask and, after taking 2 steps, hesitated for a moment, took a gold ingot from the tray, and then went outside. Meanwhile, the young man's surname Su was extremely frightened while sitting in the carriage. He gazed at the object wrapped in his coat, his lips pressed together, his eyes revealing a look of joy. He couldn't believe that this visit to his parents would lead him to encounter such an extraordinary person, capable of carving such exquisite wooden statues. He knew that the prince only loved one thing in his life. Whether it was made of stone, wood, or any other material, as long as it was carved into shape, it was something the prince cherished. And the crown prince was a filial son. If he presented this wooden statue, he would surely be richly rewarded by the crown prince. Thinking this, the young man's surname Su immediately took a deep breath. This convoy consisted of more than 10 horse-drawn carriages, speeding through the capital. The speed was already fast, but he regretted that the carriages couldn't go a little faster to quickly take him back to the prince's mansion. After a long while, the carriages stopped. The young man surnamed Su immediately pushed open the carriage door and jumped down, hurrying into the prince's mansion. Arriving at the inner palace, Su stood outside a magnificent palace and said in a loud voice, "Your Highness, Su Dao has an important matter to discuss." A moment later, a deep voice came from within the palace. "Su Dao, weren't you supposed to be visiting relatives in your hometown? Why have you returned? Let's discuss it tomorrow." Su Dao vaguely heard some gentle, coquettish voices coming from inside. He hesitated for a moment. It shouldn't be a good time to disturb them, but the object in his bag gave him enough confidence. After a moment of hesitation, he gritted his teeth and said, "Your Highness, I do have a very important matter. During my visit to my relatives, I found a wooden carving. If the king sees this statue, he will surely be very pleased." After a moment of silence, a displeased voice rang out, "Come in. If this object is not as you described, I will cut your bonus this month." Su Dao hurried inside. In the palace, a white silk curtain descended from the ceiling, covering a large bed. A pale-faced young man, clad in a purple robe, lay on the bed, his eyes filled with gloom. Su Dao, holding the robe in his hand, gently opened it. Inside, a wooden statue of a dragon was revealed. The young man glanced at the statue for a moment, then immediately stood up. He quickly approached and reached out to take the statue. Su Dao was about to warn him when the young man suddenly shouted, and with a flick of his right hand, the statue vanished. His eyes shone with intense light, and he laughed loudly, saying, "Su Dao, well done, you've rendered a great service." He patted his side and pulled out something that looked like a money pouch. From within, a purple cloud immediately poured out, instantly enveloping his entire body. The young man was now wearing a long purple robe. In an instant, as the purple cloud appeared, a gentle breeze swept through the palace. The white silk drape over the large bed was blown aside. From there, two graceful cries emerged, revealing two exquisitely soft bodies. Su Dao couldn't help but glance over, swallowing hard. Then he immediately lowered his head. This young man was no ordinary mortal, but a cultivator, though his cultivation level wasn't high, only at the 8th stage of the Cha condensation realm. He looked at Su Dao. He had seen what Su Dao had just done. So he smiled and said, "Mig, come out from today. You belong to Su Dao." A charming cry came from the bed. Suddenly, a graceful figure stepped down from the bed, pulling the bewildered Su Dao out the door and away. The young man's eyes flashed, and he quickly left the palace. He walked directly into the main hall of the prince's mansion. Outside the hall, he could hear music and his father's laughter coming from inside. A group of guards stood watch outside the hall. Upon seeing the young man, the guards immediately knelt on one knee. The young man hurried past them and entered the hall. Inside, there were altars set up, and behind them sat two monks in Taoist robes. Although both wore robes, the colors were slightly different, one black and the other blue. The monk in the black robe kept his eyes closed, seemingly oblivious to the singing and dancing. The monk in the blue robe, however, always had a slight smile on his face as he watched the girls dancing. At the head of the hall sat a handsome middle-aged man, his face equally dignified, giving off an aura of royalty at first glance. After the young man entered the main hall, the middle-aged man laughed heartily and said, "Instead of indulging in pleasures in the imperial chambers, what brings you here to find your father?" The young man first respectfully bowed to the two monks. Then, looking at the middle-aged man, he said, "Father, please look at this." He lightly flipped his right hand, and immediately a statue of a dragon was placed on the ground. In an instant, the gaze of the green-robed monk, which had been fixed on the courtesans, suddenly stopped and shifted to the carved wooden statue. The middle-aged man's eyes also brightened, and with a wave of his right hand, the courtesans immediately dispersed. The green-robed monk suddenly stood up and walked closer to the wooden statue, carefully examining it. After taking a breath, he said, this as he had already guessed it in his heart, but dared not confirm it. "This is a carved wooden statue." The black-robed monk, who had always kept his eyes closed, now opened his eyes wide, revealing a strange light, and slowly said. The green-robed monk standing near the statue was immediately stunned, and said with a wry smile, "Senior brother, of course I know this is a carved wooden statue. What I want to talk about is the animal carved on it." The black-robed monk, addressed as senior brother, pondered for a moment, then slowly said, "Never seen anything like it before. The monk in the green robe immediately burst into laughter. He was, of course, already familiar with this eccentric senior brother. The middle-aged man sitting in the main seat stared at the wooden statue and said with a smile to senior masters, "What is so miraculous about this object?" The monk in the green robe, standing near the wooden statue, picked it up. Immediately, a wave of desolate energy rushed into his face. The immense energy instantly shook his mind. This man, a cultivator at the mid-stage foundation establishment level, unexpectedly felt his foundation establishment about to collapse and hastily let go. His senior brother, the monk in the black robe, waved his sleeve. Immediately, the wooden statue flew up and landed in his hand. This monk's face also turned pale, and the golden core in his body was almost unstable. After a long while, he gradually managed to control the vibrations of his golden core. This wooden statue was crafted by Wang Lin. The higher one's skill, the greater the impact. Conversely, ordinary people are hardly affected. This isn't an ordinary wooden statue. This beast is almost identical to the dragon described in our sex scriptures. The black-robe cultivator said slowly, "Senior brother, didn't you just say you'd never seen one before? Why are you now saying it's a dragon?" The green-robed cultivator said with a strange expression. The black-robed cultivator glanced at his junior brother in surprise, his eyes showing disbelief, and said, "Junior brother, I finally understand why your skill has never been able to break through." The green-robed cultivator's face twitched slightly, but he said nothing. "I've indeed never seen this carved beast before, but I didn't say I didn't know it," the black-robed cultivator sighed. The green-robed cultivator was speechless, spitting out fresh blood. After a long while, he finally let out a bitter laugh. He had to admit defeat to this senior brother. The night was pitch black, moonless. Wang Lin lay on his bed in the room behind the shop. Beside him sat a flask of wine, which he occasionally picked up and took a sip. Over the past year, Wang Lin had clearly felt his own temperament gradually shifting, slowly shedding his cultivation life and becoming more like a mortal. For example, he now rarely meditated, something unthinkable before. For 400 years, he had only been fleeing and killing, his spiritual energy almost constantly circulating within his body. He spent all his time improving his abilities, his life filled with conflict, a life of the strong preying on the weak. A single moment of carelessness could cost him his life. He had never even slept like this before. Even in the dead of night, he would only meditate to pass the night. This kind of life, though exciting and emotionally intense, was also tinged with regret and lacked tranquility. It was incomplete. Wang Lin's current life was free from conflict. Though seemingly peaceful, it was like a gentle stream, cleansing his soul. This feeling was initially extremely unfamiliar to Wang Lin, but slowly, over time, his temperament gradually accepted this mortal way of life. After taking a sip from his wine flask, Wang Lin suddenly raised his eyebrows. At this hour, two cultivators arrived at his shop. Their bodies moved like ghosts, swiftly flying towards him. One of them raised his right hand, and the large door of Wang Lin's shop silently opened without a sound. The two quickly entered. Immediately afterward, the door was blown shut by the wind. Inside the shop, their eyes gleamed as they looked at the wooden statues displayed all around, their gazes revealing a look of horror. But this horror quickly vanished, replaced by insatiable greed. "I didn't expect there to be so many magical treasures." One monk, holding his breath, reached for a statue nearby. As he gazed intently at it, his body trembled, nearly causing him to drop the wooden statue. His eyes gleamed with greed, and with a wave of his sleeve, all the wooden statues on the shelves in the shop fell one by one into his storage bag. Another monk crouched beside a wooden chest, turning it over and over. Suddenly, he let out a scream, holding a half-finished wooden human statue in his hand. His face instantly turned a strange red, and he spat out a large mouthful of fresh blood. He quickly threw the statue away and hastily retreated a few steps, as if the carved wooden statue were some kind of ancient beast. It's really hard to blame him for not being able to withstand it. This semi-finished statue, carved by Liu, contained a spiritual power equivalent to that of a nascent soul cultivator. This person's cultivation had only reached the golden core stage, so he was fundamentally incapable of withstanding it. Fortunately, he quickly let go, and moreover, the spiritual power of this wooden statue hadn't been unleashed yet. Otherwise, he wouldn't have simply coughed up blood like that. As the wooden statue was falling to the ground, it was suddenly caught by an invisible large hand and placed into the hand of Wang Lin, who was coming out from behind the house. Wang Lin casually set the statue aside, took a sip from his wine flask, and said a total of 4,500 taels of gold. Hand it over. Since Wang Lin appeared, the two men hadn't moved, their eyes filled with fear as they stared at him. Especially the cultivator who had just been injured by the spiritual power of the wooden statue. His face was pale, and sweat beaded on his forehead. In the eyes of these two, Wang Lin's appearance was extremely strange. When they entered the shop, they had clearly used their divine sense to investigate. Although they had detected someone lying in the back, it was merely an ordinary person. But now, unexpectedly, they couldn't detect anything. This ordinary person appeared silently, suddenly like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky, causing the two of them to be extremely frightened. Furthermore, there were many wooden statues of magical artifacts in the shop. Although these two were foolish, at this moment they understood that the person before them was a senior expert, whose abilities were far beyond their reach. They looked at each other, hastily bowing respectfully and saying in low voices, "Greetings, senior. We are disciples of the White Cloud sect. We have offended you today. Please forgive us." 450 taels of gold, do you have that much? Wang Lin said calmly. The two of them stared at each other in astonishment. Being cultivators, they might have some spirit stones, but not that much gold and silver. Of course, if they were given time to prepare, they could easily produce not just 4,000, but even 40,000. Wang Lin watched the two men ponder, sighed, and with a wave of his right hand, grabbed the storage bag from one of the cultivator's waists. Immediately, the cultivator's face turned red, and he retreated a few steps, swallowing down a mouthful of fresh blood. His eyes were filled with reverence. With that wave of his hand, Wang Lin had erased his consciousness. All the wooden statues trembled slightly, and one by one they flew out in all directions, landing on the stands in their original positions, without the slightest deviation, as if they had never been touched. Go back, next time. Remember to bring enough gold. After Wang Lin finished speaking, he waved his right hand, and the storage bag was instantly delivered to the other person. Then, the two were involuntarily pushed forcefully towards the door. Just as they were about to hit the door, it suddenly opened. The two were swept out, and the door closed. The two cultivators were pushed for more than 10 miles before finally stopping, their eyes revealing an expression of disbelief mixed with fear and terror. In their eyes, this young man's abilities were unfathomable. The two were silent for a moment, secretly thanking each other for their good fortune, then looked at each other and hurried away. These two were cultivators from the Wang mansion. They had recognized that the carved wooden statue was no ordinary statue, questioned Su Dao, and then traveled all night to this place. However, after experiencing the situation just now, they were naturally terrified and almost lacked the courage to reveal their intentions in the shop. Neither of them knew that Wang Lin had left his divine consciousness on them. If they even entertained a thought that could harm Wang Lin, their consciousness would instantly kill them. Indeed, if these two had even a little understanding of Wang Lin, they would have felt incredibly fortunate. Because if it had been a year ago, their fate would have been death. Wang Lin sat in the shop, took a sip of wine, sighed, and muttered to himself. A year without killing anyone. He shook his head, turned around, went into his room, and went to bed.